East Hampton Town Board, we are live.
Thank you, LTV. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the East Hampton Town Board work session of Tuesday, January 20th, 2026. Michael, if you could please read the roll call.
Councilmember Flight.
Present.
Deputy Supervisor Lees.
Present.
Councilmember Rogers. Councilmember Calder-Piedmont.
Present.
Supervisor Burke Gonzalez.
Present. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So Councilmember Rogers is out today because she is under the weather. So we're going to start today's meeting with public portion. We ask you to kindly keep your comments to 3 minutes. We have 5 work session topics: bids with Jeannie Carrozza, Becky Hansen, and many of our department heads are here to go through for the first time our draft 2026 capital plan. Eric Shantz is going to be leading a discussion. We've had 2 public hearings on the affordable multiple residence, so this will be a post-hearing discussion. Town Attorney Jake Turner will take us through code changes. We talked about this in December for special events, but there were some questions board members had. And then I will be presenting the recommendation for creating and appointing the Latino Advisory Committee. That'll be followed by liaison reports and then resolutions. So, Michael, has anybody signed up for public comment? Would anyone here like to address the board on any issue? Jason, is there anyone on the line?
Yes, we have one person on the line. I am unmuting them right now.
Beautiful.
Hello, caller ending 6466. Oh, hey, you're on the air.
Okay, good morning and Happy New Year. My name is Vicki Littman, and I'm calling in first in support of the Latino Advisory Committee and commend you for forming it at a time when leadership and support for the Latino community are especially necessary. Secondly, I appeared before the town board on December 9th to request the establishment of an independent oversight committee, specifically to advocate for residents in affordable housing, especially our seniors who may be unable to advocate for themselves. I did a follow-up email to all the board members on December 16th to follow up. Thank you, Tom and Kathy, for responding to that email. So I'm just calling in today to see if you'll be forming this committee.
All right, thank you, Vicki.
So
The board will be taking that under consideration.
Okay, great. Because if not, I will move forward with this committee because I do have people who are willing to serve on it, but I would really appreciate it if the town could be the one forming it. So thank you so much.
Have a great day. Jason, is there anyone else on the line?
We have no other callers on the line.
Okay, so we're going to move up onto our topics. And Jeannie, if you could brief us on the bids that we have coming up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. A couple of acceptances first. First is for food service and kitchenware items for human services. Sam Tell is the apparent low bidder for that. We did also a bid for the annual generator maintenance contract. Commander Power Systems is the apparent low bidder for that bid. I'm waiting for a recommendation for a bid we did at the airport for the real replacement on the runways, but I haven't received the confirmation for the engineer yet.
Okay.
So if not, we'll hold that back for another meeting. And several notices coming up. First is for the rebuilding of the engine on a police dive vessel, mobile food concessions for select beaches, Jet A and 100 low lead fuel for the airport, the disposal site for ground leaves, and then the following week will be the notice for the sports courts construction and resurfacing requirements contract. And that's it.
All right, beautiful. Questions for Jeannie?
No, I thank you very much, Jeannie.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're moving right along here. So we're going to have Becky Hansen come up and start us off with the draft 2026 capital plan. Welcome, Becky.
Good morning, Supervisor and members of the Town Board. I'm here to present the first draft of the 2026 capital plan. And as we've done in recent years, there is a narrative that is accompanying the actual Excel spreadsheet outlining the plan for the next 3 years. The Town of East Hampton annually adopts a 3-year capital plan. A municipal capital plan is an outline of proposed capital projects for various purposes, including but not limited to physical betterments or improvements, new construction, reconstruction, or upgrades of municipal facilities, acquisition of vehicles, apparatus, or equipment for use by municipal employees, the acquisition of land, and preliminary studies or surveys that result in any capital improvement. The annual process includes notification to the department heads for all town departments that the Division of Finance, along with the Office of the Supervisor, is seeking requests for projects in the current and succeeding 2 fiscal years. The Finance Office provides a standardized form to each department, and the form requests the following information: the project name, description, estimated cost and time frame, and rank among your other departmental requests. Requests are reviewed by the supervisor and town council members. A draft plan is then presented to the town board for discussion and subsequent action. The plan also identifies funding sources for each project, and these sources include, but they aren't limited to, debt service, the appropriation of capital reserve funds, the appropriation of operating funds, the appropriation of unassigned fund balance, grants, or any combination of those sources of funding. For projects that are to be funded with debt service, the town will approve resolutions to authorize the respective debt service for the project specified in the debt resolution. The current proposed 2026 plan proposes a use of 2.32% of unassigned fund balance out of the 4 major funds. That would be the Whole Town A Fund, the Part Town B Fund, the Highway Fund, and the Sanitation Fund. In 2022, the town determined that to limit its bond indebtedness, it would fund less costly projects with unassigned fund balance. In 2023, the town increased the threshold amount based on the respective fund balance in each of the major funds. We have not yet closed the 2025 fiscal year. However, the town has been fortunate that we believe we will realize healthy fund balances in each of the major funds. The town of East Hampton takes great strides to limit the amount of long-term debt service that is issued each fiscal year. In 2025, Moody's rating, when issuing the town's AAA rating once again, stated that the town's, quote, strong financial management has led to a reserve for position that is consistent with other parties within AAA. In 2023, the town sought a rating for short-term financing and was issued a MIG 1 rating, which is the highest rating that can be issued to a municipality, and that this, quote, reflects the town's strong underlying credit quality. Due to these factors, the town is considered a highly competitive client and in recent years has received a high number of bidders during our annual debt sale. Moody's ratings, combined with the town's financial management, can routinely obtain the lowest interest rates, which saves taxpayer monies over the course of the years of the debt service. The town is optimistic that in our 2026 annual debt sale this August, that we will be as successful as years prior. I just learned that last week that the current interest rates on a 30-year bond right now for AAA rated municipalities is around 4.25%.
Sorry, Becky, how does that compare to last year?
It's around the same. It's slightly higher. We were around 4% last year, so we're still within that same realm.
Thank you.
The 2026 proposed capital plan is a combination of annual requests by departments and also for new projects. Currently proposed, there are 104 projects compared to 121 in the adopted 2025 plan. The total plan is projected to cost $15,924,980. This is just over a 2.8 million increase from the adopted 2025 capital plan. The 2026 plan proposes to issue $10.1 million in new debt, which is $1.4 million less in debt principal that the town is retiring in 2026. The plan includes a conservative proposed use of unassigned fund balance and grant opportunities to offset the long-term debt. The plan currently does not propose the use of any dedicated capital reserve funds in the 4 major funds. The same as last year, that is not being currently proposed, dependent on how today's discussion goes, but also if we have projects that do go out to bid and they are higher than we anticipated or budgeted, that we can use some of the difference offset by that by not incurring additional long-term debt. If it's a manageable amount, that we would use capital reserve funds to offset the difference. The town has requested $4.5 million in grant funding from New York State for 2 of the largest projects that are on the plan. One is for the replacement of the Sammy's Beach bulkhead, which is $2.5 million, and upgrades to the Lieutenant Lee Hayes Youth Park, which is $2 million. The 2026 plan continues to recommend funding for annual projects that maintain building and facility infrastructure, such as a maintenance allocation for town hall and window and roof replacements of various buildings. Annual highway department requests include drainage, sidewalk replacements, and road reconstruction. For many other departments, the plan seeks to continue the cyclical replacement of aging fleets and other equipment. The town is maintaining its commitment to cybersecurity by upgrading additional storage and purchasing new and innovative backup systems that have been requested by the IT department. The plan continues to support the town's advances in providing recreational facilities for local families. Building upon the recent successes at the Honorable Fred W. Thiel Recreational Facility, the town will look to build a concourse area, a shade shelter, install a new basketball court, and 8 pickleball courts. In addition, the Abraham's Path facility will also get new pickleball courts, a new IA sanitary system, and court refurbishments. The town's police department and Marine Patrol will receive funding that will continue to strengthen their operations and keep residents and visitors safe. Program projects include ramp replacements, pager and radiological detector purchases, communication equipment, body-worn camera translation services, and facility upgrades. The town also continues funding for essential highway department sidewalk and road construction projects. And again, you have a full draft of the spreadsheet with the entire plan. And as the supervisor said, as last year, there are a number of the department heads from the departments that are making some of the larger requests for the town's consideration. So if you have any specific questions, or they can go through some of their detailed requests.
Okay. Well, why don't we start with going through the special projects? And if you're the council member that put that forward, maybe you could just give an overview of what you're looking to do there. So I guess, Ian, you'd be up first.
For the Springs Hamlet pedestrian
Yeah.
improvements? Yeah, this is a project, we spoke a while back about a New York Forward grant to improve safety and pedestrian safety in Springs, which is probably the top topic that we talk about in the Springs CAC. This project particularly would focus on the heart of Springs area between Fort Pond and Ashwag Hall and School Street, trying to look for areas to build sidewalk or pedestrian safety so you can, go from the school to the general store to Ashwag Hall to the church, the library, down to Fort Pond. There are some wild cards here. The first stage would be to investigate, easements and where the road right-of-way are to find out what we can accomplish here. And that's why it'd be sort of investigation engineering this year, and then we'd do the project the following year.
Great. And then energy sustainability projects, that's something that we've been doing year to year and annual.
Right, and it's really what the town board has mostly been using it for is to supplement other, not a specific large scale project, but to supplement smaller scale sustainability projects, like when a new energy sustainable or efficient HVAC system has gone out to bid, that we needed, again, additional funds to accept a bid to move the project forward. We've used funds for that. Also, if the additional funds are needed to purchase a fuel-efficient vehicle for a lot of the departments replacing their fleets.
We might even use it for the EV chargers at Westlake, which is the only EV chargers the town has in that commercial district out by the docks in Montauk also. So sorry, Tom, I'm just going online here. So one is for the downtown Montauk streetscape upgrades. Well said, David. This is going to be the 3rd year. We have managed much of the streetscape that we're trying to improve on there, either for the walkability, being sidewalks, replacing sidewalks, adding new brick sidewalks, trees in those areas. It's not inexpensive to do. So we're going to be, and it takes a lot of time and effort to do, so we thought it was appropriate to phase this in as an annual thing for the next couple of years as we try to maintain the beautification of that lovely downtown Hamlet quarter. Madam Supervisor.
Great.
Okay. I have two on here. The first is digitization of town records. So just from the public's perspective, you know, we obviously have changed in your lifetimes from being all on paper to all on computer, and ensuring the quality of our data as we move forward in an electronic form is absolutely critical. Part of that, we hire staff to transfer some of the old records by hand onto digital records. Part of it's checks, etc. But as we guide legislation, having those records correct is absolutely critical to our function as government. So that money there is a placeholder for any capital needs we may have in the coming year to kind of improve that process as needed. The second I have on here is new community center outreach. You know, obviously there's different aspects to this. You know, we will have some work going on potentially at that site in the coming year. Good fences make good neighbors. We're looking potentially to do some work improving, you know, just noise disturbances to neighbors in that area, as and when, if any work there does take place. So we have placeholders in there for that. Kathy, anything else?
Yeah, and then if we want to bring anyone in to help us lead the discussion
exactly.
on for planning for the new community center.
Yep.
So those are 5 projects. They total $225,000. And then animal control, they're looking for a new vehicle to replace. And that's in for $70,000. And then aquaculture is.
So I'll go with aquaculture. Yeah. So primarily the aquaculture facility in Montauk is based out. The structure is actually a 1940s building that was built by the U.S. Navy for seaplanes and dirigibles and a torpedo base out there on Navy Road. So the facility itself has been aging for years. That's why I still believe that a consolidation of our aquaculture facilities is extremely important to the financial security and then also the environmental security of the town of East Hampton. Pretty much the building itself has been showing its age, and loving care is needed, and this would be for roofing, painting, more windows on there. We phased this approach in over the last couple of years also then too. It's a very large facility, but at the same time, it's a very old facility.
Right, so that's
I'm so sorry, Madam Supervisor. What I do have to say is, but what John Barley Dunn and his team at Aquaculture makes some of the best use out of that facility, but it is getting past its useful life as far as an aquaculture facility.
Right. So there's 4 projects, 3 of them are minor, and
Correct.
then the building upgrades for a total of $370,000.
And just to go back to the animal control if you don't mind,
Sure.
Supervisor, is you will note it's highlighted in yellow because if you look under notes, the town, we do have $40,000 remaining under the Clean Energy Community Grant that you had received previously for other projects. So that $40,000 will be allocated to that purchase. So the entire debt won't be incurred on the $70,000.
Great. Building department, they're looking to purchase 2 pickup trucks for the additional inspection staff. Buildings and grounds. So do we want to turn that over to Steve O'Brien, our department head? Welcome, Steve.
Good morning, Board, Madam Supervisor, the members of the board. Just run through some of the projects we have listed here. Some of them are recurring every year, like townwide ADA improvements to improve accessibility and help upgrade some of the town facilities to make them more able to be used by the members of the community, as well as the townwide HVAC improvements, which is another annual funding project to improve the aged out HVAC, air conditioning and heating systems we have in our existing buildings. We also have on here the surf rakes, purchase and refurbish surf rakes. As you know, the Buildings and Grounds Department sweeps our beaches every day during the summer season. Because of the excessive exposure to salt and the age of the units, it's time to replace one and rebuild another one. In addition to that, we also have a new tractor that we are requesting to help us pull those surf rakes through the beach, as well as to utilize in other projects throughout town. We'd like to put in for townwide sidewalk improvements. A lot of the building sidewalks in the streetscape could use some improvement and make sure that it is trip safe and ADA accessible. On here, another large one is the HVAC system in the Springs Youth Association building. That system has well past its usable lifespan. It has been patched several times by members of my staff. Not sure if it can be patched again, and it's time to upgrade it to a more energy efficient system.
We've gone to bid on that.
We have gone out to bid on it. We have a low bid that came in, so we are asking for additional funding to cover that cost. We also are looking for additional equipment for the grounds crew, including trailers and other items, to help make them more efficient and be able to cover more ground quicker. Another large one is the replacement of the Montauk gazebo. It's more of a assessment and replacement. As many of you know, it is starting to come apart underneath. We've done some work to patch it, but it's only a matter of time before we won't be able to patch it again. So we'd like to have an engineer come in, assess the structure, and give us a plan to attack. We have a request for town-wide comfort station upgrades. A lot of our comfort stations have seen their age. We'd like to get new partitions, new siding on some, new roofing on others, as well as a town-wide replacement of doors and windows. That is in many of our historic buildings, as well as some of our less than historic buildings. They need some love and care. We've also requested a large amount for town-wide roof replacements. There are several buildings throughout the town that the roof is either leaking or it will start to leak very soon.
Great. David, did you want to add anything?
Well, a couple things on here. I think this budget and pretty much your philosophy is a pound of preventative medicine right now will assist us in the long term on there with the amount of buildings we have. Instead of getting to a point where there's failure and it becomes a prevailing wage multi-million-dollar project, we might be able to obtain that with your very qualified and skilled staff or outside contractors now to extend the life of that and hence take and not have to budget that into the taxes of the taxpayers.
Long-term saving the taxpayers and the town money by doing it in-house.
Correct, and then we can get on that immediately. Two of the things on there, I know one of them is for the Montauk generator upgrade. This is something the Councilmember Flight we worked on last year. It's a two-phase aspect of it. The engineering of that is moving forward on there, but this then puts us in place to have the money to be able to fund the construction or installation of a new generator on there. So it's the second phase that's on there. Then two, the comfort stations. Again, this is a second year of the comfort stations. We were looking to target Steve and I drive around a bunch on there.
That's right.
He's always a little nervous when I call up and say, let's do a drive around. Right.
Cha-ching, cha-ching.
A lot of department heads can say the same maybe too. But it is trying to target some of the ones that are the most used, but also very well, mostly very exposed to the elements. And to keep them in place, because some of them have very good bones, but some of them need a little bit more love,
Yeah.
if you wanted to say. Fascia boards, roofings, and McGann's at Atlantic Avenue is one of our main targets for this year, and ditch planes for certain elements on there. We've had a lot less vandalism at these comfort stations recently because of the capital investment into townwide security cameras on there. So there's still some locations that do get vandalized, but remarkably so, not the ones that have cameras for the most part.
No,
So,
I think we only had 2 incidences this year off the top of my head.
Yes.
So it was a great year for that.
yeah, a better year.
A better year.
Yeah. But overall, we're trying to target the value of the cap plan here for where is high use by the residents and also by the taxpayers. And particularly these comfort stations are ready to move on then too.
Just one question I have, both of you guys on this one. With the expansion of the Amagansett Municipal Parking Lot and Park, you know, we've talked about lighting upgrades for that parking lot in the past. There's just some areas that, you know, I think locals and have come back like not really that well lit. Is that included in that million? I know it's not for next year, it's for 27, but as we're looking at that million for 27, is that part of that capital improvement, or do we need to have a separate line item for that?
So on this one specifically, the engineering, which we have accepted, is for a new parking lot and for the park itself. We are looking to add and they are lighting that will be similar to the new municipal parking lot, which is solar lighting on there. If it's within the lighting that would be in the current parking lot on there, then too, that'd be a different line item.
Okay.
So we have to do it.
Okay, for 20. Okay,
We
that's
have to do engineering for that, yes.
If I could also add, there are parts of the lighting project that can be done in-house with the existing structures. Where we are not equipped is when we're talking about installing new footings, new bases for parking lot lighting.
Yeah, I think, look, I mean, obviously with all these projects, they have to go through the full engineering process to get this done. I think, you know, when we've walked through that lot, I think with the engineers at one point, just because they're doing the other project, I think there's the identification of maybe one new fixture that would address all those areas, but we obviously will go through the process for that. Thank you.
Sure.
And also about the new park, I've been working with staff as far as looking for grant funding also too. So knowing that could it be potentially done in the fall or spring, that's a lot on the plate there. We want to get it right. But again, there's some grant funding that's out there from the state. Madam Supervisor, thank you for going to the state of the state speech last week, that we'll see if we're successful on then too, which always assists with the cap plan.
Sure.
Ian, did you have a comment you wanted to make on the Springs Library?
Oh, the Springs Library parking lot. Yeah, this is another topic of conversation that's been common at the Springs CAC. I understand for years predating my time in the town board, there was discussion of installing a parking lot behind the Springs Library where there's a little bit of a clearing and not great natural vegetation. There's a lot of events around Ashwag Hall, the Parsons Blacksmith Shop, the library, and there's just no parking. And so that's an area I think that makes sense. And so the proposal is to, in the current capital plan, it's for engineering this year and construction next year. I'm going to push and ask that we try to complete the whole project this year. Again, that's a very popular seasonal place, and we don't have adequate parking for the farmers market or other events. And I'm worried if this pushes the capital plan next year that we might even miss 2 more seasons. So.
Okay. And then you would also, I think you had a comment about, we had Springs Library window replacement for 50,000. You wanted to make that a little bit more general?
Yeah, very minor comment on that. The Springs Library windows have been in disrepair for a long time. It's hard to replace historic windows. We created a general windows budget last year, but I want to put something in specifically for Springs Library. While it's likely to be used for the windows initially, that's an old building where things pop up. So I would just like to say for windows or other improvements.
Okay.
Just to leave it more general, because as we dig in, I think there might be other things that pop up.
I would agree with that. I think that's smart. I know when we did the outside ramp, the bathroom inside, and some of the roofing, even doing the one window up in the top, it was an expensive change order that's on there. So making that repair fund a little bit more general be appreciated. I think smart, Ian. But also, it's a National Historically Registered building. There might be grant money as we move ahead this year, next year, we can look into, because when a building's on the National Historical Register, it actually does open up and makes applications stronger. So not saying we're going to move that way. It's good to have this here because so the town can take care of itself. But at the same time, there might be an option for other projects that might come along there, Ian, in general too.
So Ian, can I just ask that the monies that you had put in for the Springs Library parking lot improvements, we had 40,000 for engineering and 135 for construction. Is that a kind of a solid number? Is that a number you got from the engineers?
Yeah, all the numbers that I got from engineers. Okay. It's still very preliminary, you know, because of course the project can't be planned until we take it to the public. And so, you know, the size and the scope is all up for debate, but that was the number he felt comfortable with.
Okay. I mean, I'm open to moving the engineering and construction. I mean, we may be awarding the job at the end of the year.
That's what I almost anticipate. I don't anticipate being able to do this by the summer, which would be a dream if we could. But if we don't start in the fall and we're talking about this next year, then are we missing 2027 as well?
All right.
I only have one other question. I would agree with that. One other question for Steve would be, well, for Steve O'Brien and Steve Lynch, well done in the year which we've had regular snow events and upcoming then too. I know you've been working with the equipment out of Montauk. If you can just make the question to you, and I don't need it now, but maybe we talk this week, is the equipment that you have suffice for this, for the role of removing of snow at all the facilities? If you could just think about that, if there's anything needed there.
I'm happy to answer briefly now. No, we'll need more equipment. We've had quite a bit of snow this year. Luckily, nothing of a huge amount, right? No 2-foot storms, 3-foot storms. Maybe those days are over. We're supposed to get snow again this weekend.
This is called knocking wood, Steve.
Yes. But no, there is a capital project that is missing off of the list, and I'll sit with Ms. Hanson after the meeting and we'll make an adjustment. But there is the need to purchase additional equipment if Buildings and Grounds is going to continue sidewalk clearing in downtown Montauk. It's just very labor intensive, and it's a huge liability risk. I was there on Sunday. We were here yesterday clearing snow, and that's the main reason that we come in on those days, because even a half of an inch of snow could easily turn to a sheet of ice within a matter of hours. So we'll revisit that conversation again.
Thank you.
Sure.
Great.
The only other thing I had, Madam Supervisor, is we have in here for drones also.
Yes.
That is very similar to other departments and also for other years and too for the department specifically for the capital improvements capital project team. I apologize. A drone is a very useful attack to be able to review, survey, take photographs on roofs and other actions, and that would be something for the department in general. That the department, a lot of our buildings, we rely on other departments, and we can get qualified operator certified also in that department. So it's a small expense, but it saves a lot of timing and energy.
It's a good skill set for I think all departments in a way to begin to kind of learn to use this. There's many uses for it across the town.
Sure.
Right. And we already get thorough weekly reports from James on Pincott on our capital projects. Now we'll just get some more photos with taken from above. All right. Anything else for Steve?
No.
Thank you, Steve. Communications, Chief, did you want to handle communications?
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Not as much in there this year as usual. In general, Eddie Schnell and his team need to continue to keep upgrading UPS, the batteries, and the main piece in the communications line this year is the communications storage building construction. Needs to be climate controlled for radio equipment, generators, trailers, and supplies, et cetera. That's the main big ticket item in that line as a request from Eddie this year. We also have to replace our phone systems at the Montauk precinct to ensure that they can function and coordinate with all of the software upgrades at our current communication system and our current radio telephone system at headquarters. They need to be able to integrate properly. So those are the two main big ticket items in communication. And while I'm here, I'll jump into my police line.
Sure.
Obviously, annually, you guys have been very supportive of us finding capital projects that keep certain things out of our regular general operating budget, which allows us to focus on the day-to-day operations, and also has allowed you all to improve compensation package for our employees and improve technology that's provided for our officers, which comes out of our daily, regular, yearly operating budget. So these capital plans have been tremendous for us in efficiency. The police vehicle fleet replacement is annual. Once vehicles reach a certain number of miles, we have to rotate them through, take them out, put them as second line vehicles. We use those as backups for training, for traffic control officers, et cetera. But we rotate through brand new vehicles so that they're safe. Those vehicles run 24/7, 365 in weather. at high speed in interesting conditions, so they do need to be replaced on a regular rotation. We appreciate your support in that. Annually, we work through replacing our hardware for our computer systems at all of our desktops so that we make sure that the configurations match with the updated software. We can't have a terminal that can't support the latest upgrades in software. So we're constantly in a rotation of those to make sure they're updated. There's several interesting things I wanted to touch on here. The main one being the upgrade to the body-worn camera system. There is a new software program from Axon, which includes automatic real-time language translation services directly through the mounted camera on the officer, wherein they can literally press a button and it will play back in the selected language what was recorded. This will allow immediate real-time translation services in any situation that our officers encounter without having to bring down another officer to translate, without having to sit down with the language line. Tremendous new technology. This is a piggyback onto the BWC contracts we had signed a few years ago that had initiated the program. This wasn't available at the time. It now is. We've worked with them to put this in as an add-on to our current contract, and we hope to have this installed. As soon as we get the funding available, we should be able to work with Axon Taser to have that flipped on and get that up and running pretty quickly. Great technology, great improvement, and I think a really positive thing for the community and for our officers.
Chief, just a quick question. I would assume that requires cell coverage or some kind of connectivity to work, or does it work independently?
It works independently.
Wow.
The cell and connectivity is for when that data gets uploaded into the cloud, into the server.
Yeah.
For real-time access right there, it's standalone and it's its own unit. So it's literally recording in real time, but it's not uploading into the cloud or through the server until it gets back to headquarters, and then such time it syncs and goes into the cloud.
Gotcha.
So even without service, it's a direct,
great.
it's like using your phone to record something. Even though you might not have a phone signal to make a phone call, you can still record it.
Yeah.
Very similar technology, with it just keeping it simple. So two other things just to very quickly note on. The drones, you mentioned the drones. We're adding another thermal imaging drone. We've had tremendous success with our drone team as it's supported fire, EMS, police investigations, missing persons. It's just been a tremendous assistance to the police department, and to continue to expand the number of tools they have in their toolbox as a team. We've added another thermal imaging drone that can go out at night. We've had missing persons, we've had fires, we've had a number of different circumstances where they've been really a very, not only a positive, but improved safety, improved timing, improved efficiency. They're really a valuable tool for law enforcement. So we appreciate your support in that. And the last one I just wanted to mention without going through them all is the police vessel reconstruction. We received the donated vessel, the MV Captain Kidd, last year. We've had to redo the engine, and we need to do a slight reconfiguration on the back of the boat so that the dive team has safer entrance and access and can get their equipment on and off and can get themselves in and out of the water a little bit more efficiently and safely. And this is a spec that's been done. This 35,000 is a pretty good number considering between the engine and that, with the boat that we now have and the capabilities that we'll have, it's going to be tremendous. So other than that, it's a lot of the standard things. We have some physical plan issues with our town hall precinct building, siding and soffits, some furniture that's 23, 24-year-old building, just preventative maintenance, getting ahead of it so that things aren't gone. And the police garage facility in the back, a new door and new flooring, just to keep them safe and upgraded and working properly. And, obviously we have some aging infrastructure, and we really appreciate your support in making sure that we take care of those before they become more of a problem.
So yesterday I got a text from Congressman Lalotte's office that we had put in a request for grant funding for police vehicles last year.
Yes.
And the text read that it's passed both the House and the Senate, just needs the president's signature. That money is going to be going through the Suffolk County Police Department. So
Excellent.
It looks pretty positive
Good.
that funding is going to come through.
That's great. Appreciate that.
Chief, I just have one question on communications, and this just comes kind of through the Emergency Preparedness Committee and some of the reviews we've done, is just ensuring that we have enough radios across town departments. I've had some feedback, and Steve, I don't know if you want to talk to this when you do yours, and I apologize, I didn't ask Steve when he was here, but, you know, in the event that communications do go down, making sure that departments have adequate number of working radios to ensure effective communication. I don't know if we've done an inventory of where we're at right now, what needs might be, and whether there's any inclusion of that in this budget.
Not in this budget, but that's something that we can obviously, do a bit of a sort of an analysis, and I'll have Eddie reach out to several of the department heads. We'll send an email and we'll see where we are with that.
Thanks.
Typically, most of the department heads, when they order vehicles and have the vehicles redone through the police garage, will ensure they have the radio system they need set up for it. And Eddie works with the police garage and the department heads on that to making sure they're outfitted properly with what they need. Any needs beyond that for handhelds or mobiles or things like that, we would have to evaluate as a team and figure that out. No problem.
Terrific.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, so we're going to go back. Becky, you want to just take us through fire marshal? Because I don't think Buzzy's here.
Yep, so proposed for the fire marshal again is updated and new PPE, personal protective equipment for staff in the department. They are also looking to purchase 6 AEDs, aka defibrillators, to place inside their vehicles. They are also looking to replace they're looking to purchase 3 vehicles, 2 are replacements, and 1 is a new vehicle because of the additional staff that they have hired in 2025. Chief Fire Marshal Brown did lend out his vehicle that is being used by a staff member, so the 3rd vehicle, in essence, is for him. Again, hazmat meters, again, replacements for the aging infrastructure that they have, and the vehicle equipment is, again, various items for some of the vehicles that they currently have.
Great. Thank you.
Quick question on this. I mean, so the hazmat's great. I mean, it's one thing I've learned coming into this job is that the town actually performs a hazmat role for the town. It used to be something the fire districts individually did, but that came back into the town because it does require extensive training, and replacement of this equipment I'm fully supportive of. It just keeps our guys and girls safe out there. Question for you on the vehicles. I know there's been discussion about the possibility of inclusion of a UTV, just because we have this increased wildfire hazard. Our crews would be out there in that event, so ensuring they can get there. Is that included in this number?
It's not.
Okay.
No, we felt that was really incumbent on the fire departments to have and not the town to have that equipment.
I would agree that I think it's incumbent on the districts to have those vehicles. I think it would also be wise for us to have one too. I think not only, and the reason I say this is just, our fire marshals are in effect peace officers with special duties as their role, but our ability to have them support other government functions, be it, beach fires, you name it, the fireworks, having that vehicle, I do think it is a useful access tool that could improve their function. And I'll leave that there.
I would just say that the proposal that they did submit included a component to transport victims, and I just don't know if that's something that the town's fire marshal office is prepared to undertake or within the current duties within that department. So I would say if it's something that they still want the board to seriously consider, would probably have a revised quote for consideration. Again, not speaking for the board, that it's something that would still move forward, but that was a component of what was submitted.
I would say that's a wise inclusion, just from personal experience. I mean, the number of times we've worked with Marine Patrol to remove patients off the beach, where that's something that falls under their remit and their current operations. I think functionality with our government resources is key, and where they can cross-reuse, provided you have an EMT on site to help with that, I would assume that their coverage would be okay for that. I think the inclusion would be wise.
All right, well, we can circulate the request to board members and decide if we want to move forward with that. Okay. Tim, you're up. Welcome, Tim.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Basically, for the Marine Patrol and East Hampton Volunteer Ocean Rescue for 2026 capital project requests, you could group them into basically two primary categories. We have our waterfront infrastructure maintenance and improvements, which this board has been very, very good about keeping up with our waterfront, and it's much appreciated. You know, you guys have done tremendous work in those areas, and it's going on currently. But anyway, so those items, you know, we've been looking at the Sammy's Beach bulkhead replacement. There was a grant for that now that's been submitted, I believe, which
Yeah,
is
we've
huge.
made
Yep.
we've made
Huge,
a
yep.
outreach to the governor's office for that.
The Star Island, the commercial slips, we did a lot of work and replaced that, you know, that whole dock. It's beautiful. There is some sediment continually fills in on the inside of that T-dock there, and so we basically annually try to dredge those slips out so they become usable for the commercial fleet. We also have you know, we want to take a look at the existing boat ramps in Gann Road. Both of them are sort of over time. They deteriorate, particularly you know, at the end of the ramp. So when people are backing down, sometimes the trailer will kind of come off the edge of the ramp. So we're trying to evaluate the situation there. And then there's the Eddie Ecker Pier replacement, which we've been looking at for a while. The other stuff is pretty much all equipment. There's a one Marine Patrol vehicle in this capital request. The 5 MDTs, just like Chief Sarlo mentioned, this is our computers in our patrol vehicles that eventually will need to be updated to handle the new software and work with the existing system. And then those are the only two. Oh, and then the fixed radiation detectors on the town patrol boats. We have personal radiation detectors. The ones on the boats are much, you know, far superior in terms of detection. So we were looking at that. And then for ocean rescue, the equipment requests were personal watercraft with a trailer. Those machines, as you can imagine, that Ocean Rescue utilizes get beat up pretty good in the surf condition. And then also pagers, so that when Ocean Rescue gets called out, everybody who's a rescue swimmer on Ocean Rescue has a pager. Right now we have some members that don't currently have pagers. Let's see, did I miss anything there? I don't. Oh, and then some improvements to Gann Road. Just, you know, the windows have deteriorated at Gann Road. That's the primary purpose of that one.
All right, questions for Tim?
No.
All right.
So I just have one, Tim. I'm sorry, it's just on the last one. I don't know if it's you directly or go through Steve O'Brien's department. But Rods Valley pier replacement.
Yes.
I mean, it gets beat up over the winter. Will the repair of that for the spring come out of a capital project, or will that be part of our operating costs?
So our regular maintenance on that pier, which we do every spring, we inspect all the, you know, all the planks, all the wood, and make repairs as necessary.
Yeah.
And we've been sort of band-aiding that for you know, 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
And the structural integrity of it is sound currently,
Okay.
but there's concern that soon it will not be.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. Just from anecdotally agree with that assessment. Yeah.
So the answer is it comes out of the operating maintenance.
Correct. That's correct. Yeah, just the materials to do those regular repairs. Yes.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is Highway. Welcome, Steve.
Yeah, good.
Thanks for joining us.
How is everybody? Happy New Year. Okay, Ian already went over the road end water quality improvements at Barnes Hall Road. That's going to be come out of the CPF fund. And that's for the engineering. The snowplow purchase, we do that, it's a yearly thing as they get bent and wore and hit. It happens. Used truck purchases, we buy used trucks to put the salters on, because I just can't see putting salters on brand new trucks because it destroys the truck in 4 or 5 years. Wheel loader, that's another one to go out on the road for trees, because we only have one that's roadworthy. And East Stanton, like when we had that storm and we had 100 and some trees down, they were going from Waynescott to Amagansett and back all over. So you're kind of like chasing your tail. So that's going to be a good, thank you for supporting us with that. And replacement of sidewalks in Montauk, that's for Old Montauk Highway where it's asphalt sidewalk, to change it to concrete. Truck refurbishment, that's what we do every year. We try to keep rebuilding them till they're not worth rebuilding anymore, because trucks are so expensive nowadays. A little 6-wheeler truck with a plow and set up for a sander is $290,000. So we try to line striping, right? We're gonna do a little capital on that so we can catch up on some of it. And in the meantime, we're doing inventory on all our roads with lines so we can get a better plan in place.
That comes up a lot in my East Hampton CAC, where folks are looking for the fog line, because as we age,
I need them. I can't see at night. If you see me in a snowplow truck at night, move out of the way. Drainage, that's a yearly thing, replacing drains, adding drainage. As in more hard structures are put in on our lands, you got more runoff, so it's going to require more drainage. The sidewalk one, that's for replacement and fixing sidewalks all throughout the town. And the road construction. I mean, we got to keep up on milling and paving roads every year to keep them safe. And if we can't go behind on that, because there's nowhere, we have 300 miles of road, and it would take us probably 35 years to repave all the roads in town. So we pave them, we maintain them, we do a lot of crack sealing. If you keep the water out from getting underneath them, they last a lot longer. Any questions on highway?
I just have 2 comments on there. One of them is that about road safety and public safety is equal on here, and the road construction supervisor last year increased that line last year. We're maintaining that so we can do exactly what you mentioned, Steve, is repair, replacement, long-term investment in the roads that everyone uses. So Supervisor, I think that's good leadership on that one. And also with the line striping, typically the line striping is out of your operating budget. This is the first time that we're going to put line striping into a capital budget so that we could actually improve the requests that we're hearing from the residents for a greater amount of striping, either fog lines, middle lines, or that, so we can just do more, because per your and my conversation, the economy of scale with the striping of the lines companies, the more that you give them to work on, the better price you might get. And I think this is the year to do that in 2026. So I would
we're paying like on the regular side, we're paying about 10 cents a foot, which is an excellent deal. That's what New York Thruways, of course, I'm the same, they're paying 10 cents a foot. So we got a good rate on that. It's a company out of Connecticut. And then for smaller ones, like the roads we paved in the fall, I had Rosemar do them. As they were paving, then they come right behind and stripe, but that's 50 cents a foot. So if you have 4 lines, that's $2 a foot.
Yeah. And a lot of times with striping on asphalt, when you have brand new asphalt, which we're putting more down, the first year of striping soaks in. So typically a second paint job on top of a primer almost on there will probably last a lot longer. So hence you doing more asphalt work and replacement of the roads, line striping becomes even that more important initially long-term.
Yeah, we did on Town Line Road, we did derma striping on that, because Sagaponic, they did their half of the road and we did our half of the road. And they were already there doing the thermostriping, and you do it and it's good for 10 years.
But that project came out very nice too.
Yeah. And, all right.
So Steve,
Any
the
other
one thing that was
questions?
on here is that what you had asked to purchase 2 dump trucks with plows. They're $300,000 a piece. I know originally you had asked to buy 2 in 26. We split it and did 1 in 26 and 1 in
Yeah,
27.
so one this year, one next year. Yeah, it's important to keep up on that stuff because you figure you got 35, 40 trucks going out on a snowstorm. And we had a lot of breakdowns this year so far. It's when you don't use them all the time, then you find things that are wrong, as Ian would know, being a farmer. Right? Stuff sits all winter, and then you go out in the summer and use it.
It's a little bit like your
find
shoulders and
things
knees at times. You don't use them. You don't use your body, they break down.
Steve, talking of which, what's the department currently use primarily to grade our non-asphalt roads?
Speak up a little bit.
I'm sorry, what does your department currently use mostly to grade our non-asphalt roads, roads that we maintain?
We have a road grader that we just redid.
Okay, it's just been
'Cause
redone? Okay.
It needed a lot of work, and I looked at new ones, and the new road grade is like $700,000.
Okay.
So we rebuilt the one that we
So
had.
the useful life of our existing one is still pretty solid.
We only have 2 roads that we grade, 2 dirt roads. One belongs to the trustees, is Merchant's Path, and the other one is Stony Hill.
But in the past, so when we did Edwards Hole in the past, because I know we did a resolution for that, and
That was, yeah.
did we use our grader for that as well, or no?
No, we use a payloader on that one.
So we use a payload, okay, all right,
Yeah, it depends on the condition of the road, what we use.
okay, gotcha, thank you.
I've actually seen that grader out during snowstorms in the past. Also.
On snowstorms, yeah, but
Snowstorms, yeah.
there's no more.
I gotcha. All right.
Can I just ask a question? It's not pertaining to the capital plan, but since we have you here. So we had done a speed limit change on Long Lane going down to 30 miles an hour. I believe we got that back from the state. So I don't know if that's been communicated to you yet, Steve, that if we could just make sure Steve gets that communication so that those new speed limit signs can be put in on Long Lane between the circle and the high school.
When was it approved?
Just in the last few weeks, maybe,
Okay.
maybe week, 2 weeks.
We
So-
received something from the county, a whole list of
That's
streets.
different. This was Long Lane. We had a public hearing on. It was a request of the county for us to reduce it. Since it's a county road, we held the public hearing. We passed the legislation, but then it had to go to the Department of State, and with the holidays and everything, I think it just took a
Michael sent me over the stuff for the stop signs, the new
Yeah.
stop sign,
yeah,
and I believe they're up already.
beautiful. All right. We'll just follow up on those.
Steve, can I just ask a question here? I know part of the capital improvements to some of the structures from last year, from the last 2 years, I think we did engineering, and then also then we put the money in for the roof at the highway department. How's that project working for you right now? The roof replacement?
It's getting there. As a matter of fact, I had a meeting with Jim Daisy this morning,
Okay,
so,
great. It was needed.
oh, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and our office roof, which was new not that long ago, is leaking again now, too.
Okay.
So, and that's getting recoated, so, we should be good for a while once they're finished.
Great, thank you.
Steve, since you're up here, do you want to turn to page 4 and do sanitation?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Okay, sanitation's easy. Every year, we got to buy more 30 and 40-yard roll-off containers because they rot out fairly easy, especially ones you use with the bottles and stuff, because a lot of acidity stuff. So that's a yearly thing. We need a new payloader with a grapple bucket, which we'll be able to apply for a DEC grant on and get 50% of that back. That's for baling cardboard, newspaper, and for loading glass into the glass crusher. A license plate reader we're going to get. This way we can keep track who's coming, because every once in a while you get people that don't want to pay and they just keep on going.
Yeah, I
Now
mean,
we have it.
I agree, and listen, I think on this one, as Ian did with earlier with the Springs building, I think maybe kind of just widen the description of what this money is for. Yes, it's for license plate readers. Also, people leaving or entering the facility illegally on the Wednesdays when it's closed. I'd say just overall site security might be a better description or an umbrella for this to fall under versus just than license plate readers. Give us a bit more
And
scope.
eventually, maybe we'll be able to tie it in with the permits.
Yeah,
And it
that's
will read
the long-term
permits.
goal, Steve.
Right, modernization.
Yeah. Right, sanitation, building upgrades, which is long, nothing's been done to that building since it was built. And it's really showing, so we got engineering for that this year. Hopefully we get numbers together and go out to bid next year. DEC's on us a little bit about it, but they've been really good with us, so I have no complaints with them. So they know we're working on it. Like we're doing a
that's the
lean-to
tipping
this
floor?
year. Huh?
That's the tipping floor?
The tipping
building?
floor, yes. All right, we're doing a lean-to this year. That's coming out. That project's moving right along, looking good. They're hanging steel now.
Yeah.
Okay, the sprinkler system, I mean, that's an ongoing thing. Yeah, that company, it's forever going on. Let's see, the haul vehicle, that's a truck to move the trailers around the yard. It's a special truck. We've always used regular tractors. And what happens is with the weight and the turning and twisting, you break the frames on, they last about 5 or 6 years. So this is something that will be around for quite a while. So, and it's safer for the guys because once they get in it, when they hook up, instead of going up and down, they can walk right out the back of this vehicle because the door is in the back, and then you just walk out and hook everything up and go. And plus, the fifth wheel moves up and down on it, so when they're backing up to a trail, they can just lower the truck, go under it, and then lift it up and move it. So that's going to be a nice addition. Any questions?
I don't, folks.
No, I don't. I just know there's a lot of work being done over there through this type of 3-year plan right now, currently and still to come on there then too, because it is one
Our
facility.
biggest problem is staffing.
Yeah, that's
nobody.
the secondary part. Yeah.
Saturday we had two guys in and a highway department guy there. One of the sanitation guys was on the tipping floor loading trailers. The other one was out in the back in the compost facility. And the guy from the highway department was running the roll-offs back and forth to Montauk. He was a busy boy that day.
Yeah. I mean, Steve, it's at all levels that you're having staffing issues, not just entry level, but across the board, right?
Excuse me?
It's at all levels that you're having staffing challenges, like all levels. It's the opening positions, but also the senior operators, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, how many staff short do you feel you are?
We're 4 people down in HEOs and CEOs.
Okay.
But it doesn't show up because we're going back probably to 2015, 2014. You just can't, there's nobody here to work. And if they can, they're, experienced operators can get a lot more money elsewhere.
Yeah. Yes, it's a building. Okay.
Okay, I thank you for this. I thank you for supporting us.
Thank you for getting our roads cleared. It's been,
And
it's always the weekends, like.
yeah, next Sunday again. Yeah. Okay, take care. Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, housing and community development, land building upgrades. You want to take that, Ian?
Yeah. There are various, well, actually, Mark is here. Mark, do you want to speak to that? The upgrades of the land building?
Or Becky, you know?
The upgrades to the land. This wasn't one that I proposed myself.
Okay.
Oh, it's a continuation of upgrades we've been doing at that building. What's proposed for 26 is full window replacements at the building. An initial quote has just a quote to, so we had an idea of what to include in the plan, was around $165,000. Obviously would have to go to bid. We had planned to do part of this in last year's plan, but we had to replace access stairs at the back of the building that had to be done. So we accessed money that had been set aside for the windows towards other projects within the building. So this is just a continuation of the building upgrade, but specifically for 26, it's for window replacements at the building.
The building's older. They did the floors last year, the access, like Becky spoke about, and the windows are in need of repair. So.
It's an old Navy building.
Yeah.
That's nearly 100 years old.
Yeah, so it's needed.
Okay, great.
Our doors are included as well, yes? Not just windows?
I'll double check, but yeah, what was submitted?
Okay, then we have Human Services, Senior Center and Human Services Department Building Maintenance. And I believe that was, we were going to be looking at flooring, and I think there's 2 windows that need to be replaced in the dining room and a door that needs to be replaced in the activity room. Diane, is that, you want to come up? Great.
Good morning, Supervisor and Town Board members. I think we can revisit this a bit because I was speaking with Steve O'Brien, the Director of Buildings and Grounds. And last year, we had a really successful partnership at working on the outside of the building. His carpenters came and fixed that, and then we painted it. So we did all that in-house when we had gotten a quote years ago to do it for what, $30,000. So I believe we can do the ceiling tile replacement in-house. I found money in the budget, which we moved, correct, right?
Not yet.
Okay, we are moving to redo the ceiling tiles. I think the trailer, we could move that a year or 2 down. The dishwasher purchase that I put in, we could try a new vendor and rent one. I think we could also probably replace the doors in-house as well. I think redoing the floors is the big issue.
There's trip hazards, I mean, bluntly, that we need to get addressed. The doors are a must for me. Those are fire exit doors, like they have to be done this year, either within capital, within buildings and maintenance.
Yeah.
The ceiling tile, look, whether we include it here or with it internally, you guys have done a great job. I know there's been kind of modifications we've made in-house to account for the sound issues that are there. It would be nice to replace. They look pretty.
It doesn't look good.
Pretty rough.
Right.
The dishwasher's one where I think it's one. Listen, I'm of the school of dishwasher, just me. It's the same at home. If you have a good one, it actually saves you in the long run. Like a dishwasher doesn't break all the time is really beneficial for your staff and your operations. I guess the question there is it worth us buying it or leasing it? I mean, and that's,
well, yeah, I don't want us to purchase one and then need to purchase another one because the design for the new building is different.
I mean,
I don't know.
We're going to depreciate this over 5 years, which is typical capital investments. I think you'd probably, just my timeline, my expectations, I think 5 years might not be a bad concept.
Yeah.
It's 5 years before we get into the new community center?
Honestly, I have to wait and see. I mean, given the process, what we might have to go through secret. I don't want to put on table, I think, useful life of that dishwasher. And could it potentially be transferred over? Like if you get a good Gibson, those things are tanks. They will last.
Right, but then you would not, there's going to be a time when the new equipment has to go into the new kitchen, and you can't take it out of the current kitchen because then you wouldn't have a dishwasher, right?
I guess the question there becomes the kind of the future function of that building, and I think that's one where is that and that's one we haven't really had an open discussion on how that will be used. And whether there will be need for an industrial dishwasher there in the longer term.
Okay, so. Maybe we haven't had that discussion with this board. Past boards were always the discussion was that building would be removed and that property would be developed as affordable housing. You've got the Springs Fireplace project there, East Hampton Housing Authority runs next to it. And we've had conversations with the folks at Windmill that property could be gifted to Windmill to expand senior housing, affordable housing. So it was always my understanding that building was not going to be repurposed for another use because of it's well over 100 years old, and it's,
Yeah, I guess it's timelines. That's really
Yeah.
it comes down to whether we think 5 years till we're in a new building. I don't know. It depends really what the scope of the project is, truthfully. It could be potentially, so.
Well, I was contacted by a new vendor for a rental dishwasher, so I'll see what information I get.
Yeah,
to
just
see.
I'd be interested to know what the annual cost is versus
Sure.
yeah.
Because the whole chemicals, it can get a little complicated. So sometimes working with a professional company is helpful, but.
Right. I mean, isn't there an issue we've had in the past that with some of the rentals, you have to use their detergent or the warranty doesn't work? And that's a significant cost.
Have to use their chemicals, which are very costly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, dishwashers.
okay. Next up is IT.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Tom, you want to take that? I don't think he's here.
Okay, sure. Excuse me 1 second. Jumping in. Okay, replacement of firewalls. This is just kind of, it's IT capital, basically. It's, the infrastructure we have in place to, ensure we have adequate security from external threats, making sure there's blocks in place for our users to ensure that no viruses come in. So it's an annual kind of capital investment or a periodic capital investment. Increasing server storage space. Look, we're using IT more and more. As we kind of talked about digitization, storage of that data is critical. So both increasing and, purchasing, I would say, longer term life storage systems is critical for our continued operations. The immutable backup system, this is an absolute critical. This is something, and we've seen it elsewhere with the municipalities. There are cyber attacks. They take local government down. And, being able to be up and running again is absolutely critical. So as we look to kind of ensure that capability with off-site backup systems, we will need this capital for that. And then creating online data access portal, it's something that with the pressing pushes on our time, more and more of people's day-to-day interaction with town government is on a mobile basis through their phones, through their laptops, et cetera. And this is just helping to improve that element.
Okay, Justice Court. Becky, you want to take that?
Sure. Again, that's just to add additional security cameras at the location. That building has also gone over the last few years, upgrades to the building, including new carpet, repainting for the offices and the court areas.
Okay. Land management, Baker Barn restoration.
So the Baker Barn restoration is something that we looked at for engineering for the Baker Barn historical building. Within context of the town hall complex on there, we looked in for dry storage. I would like to have the discussion about potentially, instead of using it for dry storage, to add to engineering to see if it would be feasible to turn it into office space for town employees if needed then too. The dry storage in there could be stored in a different location or maybe combined with a different another department. But that would be what I would like to try to investigate for 2026, that we then would go do the work into 2027 on there, potentially on there. But I think there's sizable enough space in there that we could have a full department or a partial department in there if needed. It's just one more look. If that's where we're going to spend, what's our long-term gain out of that structure on a town hall complex, knowing that we're always looking for meeting space, but also office space.
Right, and that's why it's saying for an updated engineering proposal for 26, not using what we currently have.
Okay, great. All right, natural resources.
Again, this was a request from the department to install additional fast charging stations at the Fred W. Field Recreational Facility and the Amagansett parking lot. There is a state grant available that we have received, for actually what we have back out here at Town Hall. So we will be exploring that alternative or that resource.
Great. Parks, I should have had when Steve was up here, but maybe you could just do that because they're
sure. Steve, you want to come back up? But again, pretty self-explanatory. Purchasing a new truck for the electricians, and And the tractor, again, would be used as a replacement. But again, it's also, as we are upgrading the recreational facilities and also for beach management and the recreational fields. Did I get it?
You did well. Yes, the two projects listed there, the tractor, which I mentioned briefly when we went over buildings and grounds to help clean the beaches, as well as other grounds projects. But we need a new bucket truck for our town electrician to maintain all the street lighting, as well as everything else electrical in the town. Theirs is 10, 11 years old now. I forget what my notes said. The mileage is getting on, and we're actually looking into bidding for a hybrid version, which will use batteries to operate the boom, and the engine will be a traditional clean fuel diesel, but we'll be able to switch back and forth to electric as needed.
Right.
Steve, we will be keeping the old bucket, because there's just so many potential uses for bucket truck across the town. Will you be keeping the old one?
We will, as long as the maintenance on it does not become excessive.
Okay.
What we did last time was we actually swapped our old truck to highway department for them to use for tree clearing. My staff does not get into too much of that sort of thing. And remember, these trucks aren't like the ones you see on the side of the road. They have a maximum height of about 30 feet. So their use is a little bit more limited. Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other
Great.
questions?
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Becky, you want to take planning?
Sure. So planning, which we moved to 2027, office furniture upgrades, and that would be in the 2025 plan, the board approved office renovations for suites over 300 that you own. That was planning, natural resources, and IT. And so any replacement of outdated furniture or additional needs due to redesign of space within those office suites, that would come in 2027 once renovations are completed for any new furniture. It's highlighted as fund balance because we cannot issue debt. If this was a brand new office or facility and the first time purchase for furniture, then we could issue debt. But since it's not, debt would not be issued on that. An update to housing and traffic management plan that is within the town's comp plan. I should have added that. Sorry about that. And again, that would also be in 2027. The topography boundary survey was requested as it was recommended in the Wayne Scott Hamlet plan.
Okay, great.
I do have one question
Sure.
on planning, sorry. This is just, you guys will know with history, I'm not as sure, but we're coming up to close to the 25-year anniversary of our comp plan. Conceptually, that's when it should begin to look to be revisited. Do we need to put capital in for that to begin or revisit the comp plan, or is that something we're going under consideration?
So the way we've been adding to the comp plan, energy sustainability, our housing plan, this is a request that came from our planning director that we need to do a more comprehensive housing and traffic management. Because right now, when there's a project, they're doing traffic studies that pertain to just that project. And we wanted, I know, Ian, we've talked about this. Maybe we want to, rather than, an opportunity comes up, do we want to put an AHO on this property? We're going to take a step back and look more globally across the town and say, where does it make sense to have, for instance, an affordable housing overlay district?
Mm-hmm.
Or are there other overlay districts that we should be considering? So Tina wanted this year to scope the project. And then next year we would go out for RFP and hire a firm to work with us to work on a plan update.
Okay.
I don't know if you have anything else to add, Ian.
No, I don't. I think Tom brings up a fair point, which is, do you do the whole comp plan, or my focus is certainly housing. I know planning felt strongly that if we're doing housing, that leads into traffic and then maybe environmental as well. So I'm supportive of this, especially with the housing element. I defer to the planning director in terms of, how best to schedule it.
And what tools she needs. Okay, recreation. John, if you want to join us, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, so some of these items Becky had mentioned already, but I'll go through them again. They're just in the same order that we have them on the list. So at Lions Soccer Field, we wanted to make some facility upgrades there. Two different things. One was to put protective netting on both the north end and on the west end of the perimeter of that field to help keep people playing so their balls and stuff don't get lost in the shrubbery and everything else. And then we also wanted to get a new scoreboard at that location as well. And then across the street over on Lions Softball Field, we wanted to get a scoreboard for that location as well. They both need to be replaced. We also then want to be purchasing AEDs for town parks. These will be for Montauk Playhouse, with the Playhouse being completed over there with the pool and the the convention and meeting areas and stuff. So we need to get AEDs from that half of the building. As mentioned earlier, the Lieutenant Lee Hayes Youth Park expansion and building upgrades, expand the park, expand the building, a new playground, which would be larger, expand and add pathway systems for walking and moving around and maybe riding bikes, multi-sport area, and also making the basketball court larger there as well.
Can I just expand on that if you don't mind, Madam Supervisor? Is that the Lee Hayes Youth Park, again, was a building that was actually swapped with the town maybe 30 years ago or something to that effect. Property was purchased next door to it that we're looking to expand. What John is mentioning, I think this is perfect for some grant opportunities for the state, which we've requested. John and his department did a survey of user groups, of users of that park over the last couple of years during the period, and we're trying to implement this with sensory playgrounds, working with John, and because the the roller rink that it's there became very cost prohibitive to repair, that we thought a holistic look, as we said a couple times today, at the park is appropriate. I think we're getting close to unveiling that design, and maybe that's a great work session discussion for February, if not early March, on there, knowing that this is not going to be a project that's not going to be done until at least the fall, but that we can maybe bring that to the town board and that we can discuss it. Would that be okay? Also, but the funding would be there for it to start it in the spring, in the fall of this calendar year.
And then the next thing on the list, we need to replace 2 of our lifeguard vehicles. 2 of them are getting old. One is about 8 years old. The other one's about 12. So they need to come off the sand. We want to this time get 4-door cab vehicles so we can also move staff around, allow us to also have them park, let's say by Dory Barn, and we can move them and we can take up less parking spaces at a beach. So we need those 2 vehicles. At Fred Theo Recreational Facility, some more upgrades. It's over at Stephen Hand's Path. As mentioned before, 8 pickleball courts, a concourse, a shade shelter, and a new basketball court there as well. Playground improvements for the following year over at Fred Thiel also. We wanted to just make some upgrades to the existing playground that's between the grass field and the turf field, the soccer fields. And we also have playground improvements at the Montauk Playhouse. I'd like to do some upgrades there. And then also the last item I believe on the list, Abraham's Path recreational facility upgrades. We want to refurbish the basketball court there, replace the basketball hoops that are there, install 3 pickleball courts, and then upgrade the sanitary system there as well. That's what we got.
I think, listen, I love the job your department does. It's great. I'm supportive of all of these. There's just 2 I want to kind of put on the radar, maybe not for 26 certainly, but for 27, seed money for engineering. David, you and I have discussed these anecdotally in the past. The first is the concept of doing AstroTurf field on the Lions field adjacent to where the Soul Cycle is. You know, that soccer field as it stands gets a bit of use, but it also gets beat up. And so, a good soccer surface is really got to be even to be maintained. And AstroTurf is a great fit for that. It's also versatile. I just think it would be a great addition to, Montauk's outdoor recreation as the skate park was. The second is the fishing pier on Fort Pond in Montauk. Look, it's the second biggest freshwater body on Long Island. The freshwater fishing there is incredible. Fishing is our heritage, it's our history. That pier, I know it's got some history here and there and everywhere, but to begin engineering plans to, come up with something that maybe is a better long-term piece for us. Maybe it's not offshore as an island, maybe it's onshore as something fixed and easy to maintain and look after. But I think it's something we have to address in the not too distant future.
Okay. Any other questions for John?
No questions. I support all of these.
Okay, and then, thank you, John.
Okay.
I think the last thing we have is tax receiver.
Again, this is just a continuation of ongoing upgrades within the office. There was, again, updates made to the office in addition to security measures, given the amount of funds that move throughout that office especially during tax collection time. So again, this is just a continuation to make the entire office suite consistent.
Okay, great. All right, so obviously, Becky, in your the chart you put together, you've color coded it so we know what's, we would do with debt service, what would be grants, what would be fund balance, water quality. We've had a lot of comments today, so we will take all of that into consideration. And I think, we'll have offline conversations with board members and department heads, and we'll be bringing this back on February 3rd, our first work session in February. And, ideally, we'll adopt the plan on February 5th, since we've only got 3 meetings in February. We're not meeting the week of the school break because the majority of the board are going to be away. So in this way, then it gives time for our bond council to put together the.
Right. If you adopt the plan on February 5th, that gives, again, Bill Jackson from Hawkins Delafield enough time to draft all of the debt resolutions. So ideally, at the first March meeting, you will adopt all the bond authorization resolutions. You will also do a resolution to authorize the projects, advancing funds from fund balance for the fund balance projects. Then once those are adopted, Naji Valera, the deputy budget officer, puts together a chart, and then lets department heads know when the funds are actually available for them to spend. Any debt issue that's through the sanitation fund is subject to a public hearing, so that does take a little longer for them to access the funds. If you are adding the use of any capital reserve funds from any of the 4 major funds, that also has a 30-day permissive referendum waiting period. So, but for all intents, ideally by hopefully by the end of April, departments will be able to move forward with a lot of these projects, I would say, at the latest.
Beautiful. Good. All right. Questions for Becky?
No, it's just a statement, we value public safety, we value our infrastructure of our roads, and we value recreation out here and our historical preservation. And once again, by having great credit rating, we're able to get the best rates possible for the taxpayers, but at the same time, be able to invest that money into long-term gains and significant investments into our structures and buildings. So well done, and I thank you, and I look forward to the next steps.
Great, thanks.
Okay, all right, we're going to switch gears now. Our third topic is the affordable multiple residence post-hearing discussion. Jason, if you could let Eric Shantz into the meeting, please. He's going to take us through this via Zoom. Thank you to everybody for coming down today, to our department heads.
Yes, I missed the opportunity
So we've held public comment. If you want to, you can either give your contact information to the clerk, or if you want to go back to my secretary in the supervisor's office. And
I thought I can just take a couple minutes to tell you what it's about. Can I please?
Okay, this is highly unusual for us to do this, but Okay, so we have at the beginning of the meeting, we have public
I
portion.
noticed this, I apologize,
Yeah.
I wasn't familiar about this, but I appreciate, but at the same time, I learned a lot that you are very busy. So that's my explanation, maybe that you didn't have a time since 22 to 24, when I was coming to your office, to your secretary, I never had respond. That's, so this is about,
So if you could just state your name for the record.
it's Regina Whitney. I am in East Hampton. It's about the property between Oakview Highway and Middle Highway, which is owned by Ronald Webb. Actually, I can mention too about the Bistron, because every day they coming and taking the soil from the pit, and every 20 minutes. Today it was every 20 minutes because one truck. Friday there was every 10 minutes, there was 2 trucks. It's so loud, it's commercial, it's not residential area. So I don't know. I heard about this, that he's supposed to stop taking the soil, but what I noticed now, he's taking one way and he's bringing the soil, putting back to the pit. So I was wondering if you are familiar what kind of soil he's bringing and covering back, because the water we all using in East Hampton is right on a few highways, so it's connection. But I don't know much about this. This is just my simple understanding, but it's more what I want to say. It's about Webb's property, because like I mentioned a couple years ago, I was trying to talk to somebody and to pay attention town that he's trying to, his property was residential property, but like everybody noticed, this is commercial property. He keeps his big trucks, big backhoes, big equipment, everything, whatever he needs is right in the center, because he's operating, Bridgehampton, Montauk, whatever. And last year, in May, I came again to your office, and one of the secretaries says that, oh, we have a new director, so, he may have a time. I didn't even go back home yet, and he called me, and he said, oh, I would like to see you. So I met him in the office. I told what it's about. He called me in 2 days. He said, I looked at the case. Yes, he cannot use this property for commercial reason, and to make a short, he has to take everything away from the property, and which would happen. He moved all equipment, he moved the soil, which was the pile soil, but in a couple weeks later, I don't know. I have already notes. I gave it to the planning department exactly which day what happened, and I have a lot of pictures too. And then couple days, maybe 2 weeks later, he was bringing the soil, and I was follow his truck. He was bringing the soil where the places where he does the excavation, and I don't think so. This is that he can keep it. So. Director in this time, he told him he has to remove everything, and he sent the person stopped at big trucks, and I saw he was moving somewhere else. I don't know. But then, months later, I didn't know, but the new director was removed or something happened. I wasn't familiar until this happened. And, 70 huge trucks came to his property with the topsoil, and I know they came from the Sagaponack, because he was building, excavating the foundation, maybe somewhere else, but there were 3 huge trucks from Tuesday to including Saturday. Every 15 minutes, I have each truck on my camera. And so that was very weird, because he was told to remove everything, including metal containers, everything what was there. And now I was away for a couple months. Now everything is back. In the morning, Friday, I wake up, I hear the big noise. I look through the window, I see a huge truck, his truck, bringing huge backhoe to the work. And then during the day, obviously, on the morning, the 2 cars are coming, they leave their cars on the property, they're taking other trucks, they're using the big backhoes back and forth. Today, before I came here, I looked through my window, kitchen, and I see the truck there. I went outside, and they bringing huge trucks. Everything, whatever is they bringing from the property, they accumulating on this property. Supposed to be the 9 or 8 houses. He's a builder, so he's, I guess, a good builder. He makes the big houses. We have a nice neighbors and have a good property, but no, he's using, because I guess it's more profitable. He's bringing the soil, he's selling the soil for the same clients, I guess. So he's taking what he's better. I mean, I did all the work. I did a lot of things. The planning department has this stuff. The enforcement code has this stuff. Oh, one thing is the enforcement stuff. People said he needs the soil because he will build the houses, so he need the topsoil. Of course he needed, but not 70 huge truck. Now, with the snow, I look through the window, I feel like I'm Colorado, so I said, I was joking, what is the ski resort next to us or something else? So please pay attention. I know you are very busy with other stuff, but people like us, we deserve a little peace on the street because it's very busy. Plus this unexpected, commercial property next door doesn't make us very happy.
Okay.
And so.
Madam, it's on our radar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, because I know Mark's got another meeting at 1 o'clock, so we need to get this going. Eric, are you there?
I'm here. How is everyone?
Very well, thank you. Do you want to take us through the memo?
Sure. So basically, this is just summarizing where we are with the affordable multiple residence and the next steps. The board has actually held 2 public hearings on this. The first one was in September of 2025. The board subsequently in October discussed those public comments, actually resulted in a few changes to the draft legislation as it was worded, mainly to add provision for an owner-occupied unit and removing the requirement that all units be in multi-unit buildings. Another public hearing was held. That's this most recent one, which was held on January 8th. 2 members of the public spoke and 2 letters were submitted to the file. The town board should review the public comments, but we basically summarized them. They fall into generally actually 3 categories, sort of programmatic or dimensional requirements being one, sustainability requirements being the second, and then the third really being sanitary systems and a requirement for a low nitrogen system. But basically, with regard to programmatic and dimensional requirements, there was a public comment. The code should specify that the housing units must be for year-round full-time housing for residents. We note that there are 2 provisions in the code, one that requires that all leases be for a minimum term of 1 year. There's another that requires that tenants all be residents, and resident is defined as someone who lives or works within the town or has within the past 5 years, to have it match what's in the community housing fund law. So basically the planning department feels that this has already been accounted for in the draft legislation.
Can I just ask you a question, Eric? When you have underlined in the memo on page 2 of 5, those were the changes we made for the January 8th?
No, I'm sorry for that confusion. I was just highlighting the section of that code that is specific to the residency requirement.
Okay, got it.
Highlight that it was being addressed. Yes, I'm sorry.
No
this
worries.
doesn't track changes from the last discussion in any way.
Got it.
The next public comment was the code should specify that residency cannot be contingent on a particular employer or job, or if it is to be a form of workforce assisted affordable housing and there is a change in employer employment status, the resident will have up to 12 months to move. So basically the draft code does not specify that residency cannot be contingent on employment, but it's our understanding that that would be an illegal arrangement. You can't offer someone a home completely contingent on continuing employment. provided the tenant and the landlord execute a lease agreement that is for a minimum term of 1 year, as required in the code, and then a copy of which has to be supplied to the Office of Housing and Community Development. Then a tenant no longer employed by a landlord would otherwise have the full remaining term of their lease to reside in their unit. So basically, a requirement of the code, and then it's checked by housing, is that a separate lease be provided that is a minimum term of 1 year. If someone's employment is terminated before that year expires, their lease is still good. As far as after someone's lease expired, or expires, there's no provision that would allow the tenant to live in that unit beyond their lease anything more than what New York State real property law dictates, which there's a process for holdover leases is what it's referred to. Basically, generally speaking, a tenant is allowed, if they have a year-long lease, at least another month with which to find employment before they start triggering things where they're someone that's staying in the unit. But there is no provision to allow tenants to stay in past their lease any significant amount of time. The next public comment was, can we ensure that AMR units should accommodate a range of percentages of AMI as opposed to seeing them only available up to the maximum, which is 130% of area median income, or AMI. The maximum rent allowed to be charged is set by the town code in the definition of an affordable housing unit, and is currently 130% of fair market rent. All property owners would be permitted to charge up to the maximum. There's no plan to assign a certain number of affordable housing residence units to a certain income bracket. I mean, that's a way that you could do it. You could only issue permits in certain brackets. But I think we want to have this be as wide-ranging as possible. Something we could do is have efforts to promote acceptance of Section 8 by landlords. That would accommodate some tenants that are in lower income brackets. That's something we should do anyway. It's something we can discuss with housing, but I don't know that it necessitates a change to the draft legislation as it's been presented. The next comment was, it's not clear what happens when there is an AMR development on a parcel. Then the parcel is sold and the new owner does not want to continue the AMR use. What happens to all the structures of units? We note land use is run with the land and not the owner. If a property with an affordable multiple residence is sold to a new owner, that owner has the choice of continuing to operate the affordable multiple residence in accordance with all applicable standards, or change the use to another conforming use, which in most situations we would think would likely be single family residence, provided they get proper approvals, building permits, depending on the use. A new owner would be responsible for the lease agreements in place at the time of sale. So basically, a new owner could continue the affordable multiple residence. They'd be required to honor their leases, but they certainly could change the use in the future. But if they have multiple buildings and they're changing it to a single family residence, in theory, they would need to demolish a building. But basically, it's the same avenue that would be to any property owner if they wanted to change the use on a parcel. The next comment was, overall, the code should set not only density in terms of number of units per acre, as the current draft outlines, but the code should also specify that the average bedroom count per unit on any parcel should not exceed 2. Our response would be the draft code was crafted with consideration of both the total number of people that could be within a unit as well as the needs of a household likely to occupy them. In this case, the effective limit of the number of people in a unit is 6, as the code limits units to 3 bedrooms and no more than 2 people per bedroom. The planning department does not see a need for an additional restriction. If you're going to make it so that the average is not to exceed 2 bedrooms in a unit, you do make it a situation where if somebody does have adequate space to make 3-bedroom units, and a household that has, is a couple and has 2 children that they each want to have their own bedroom, if you set the limit at 2 bedrooms effectively, then you're prohibiting that possibility. So we would recommend that you keep it as open as possible. I think that 3 bedrooms with a limitation of 2 people per bedroom or 6 people per unit is reasonable and doesn't create a situation of overcrowding, certainly. The next comment was, Clarifications in addition should be made to section 3 of the draft code, which details the dimensional requirements. Specifically, it's suggested that the following draft code section be amended as follows. I put some, I have it in the memo, but basically there's a section that says the multiple residents and all other structures on the lot shall comply with the setback, lot coverage, gross floor area requirements, and all other applicable dimensional regulations of the underlying zoning district as per the dimensional regulations. It was proposed to clarify that it's lot coverages to include both lot coverage and total lot coverage, which are specific terms, and then also clarify that the affordable multiple residence would also need to comply with the clearing limitations that are provided in the code. I don't think those changes are necessary. The draft wording implies that and technically requires it already, because it basically says it'll comply with all the dimensional regulations of the underlying zoning district. You certainly can clarify this in the code, that clearing is also included there, and that lot coverage includes lot coverage and total lot coverage. We just don't think it's necessary by virtue of the fact that there's a statement that all dimensional regulations as required in 255.11.10 of the town code, the dimensional tables already require that.
So let me just ask Jake a question. So Jake, if we wanted to be more specific, would this require another public hearing, or is this something we could, because we say that it's, we've said all dimensional requirements, can we?
To be safer, I would say have another public hearing.
Oh, okay.
For that small of a change, really?
To be safer, that's what I would say.
Okay.
But it would also, as Eric just mentioned, putting something that's it would be redundant again, because it's already, language is already in there that all dimensional regulations of that section of the code.
Yeah, I don't think that change is probably necessary, but I am surprised that if it's not saying anything different, it's just a clarification how that would require a hearing. I mean, defer to council on that, but it seems like a minor change.
And keep in mind with the wording of the code, both in this draft legislation and already as it's worded, any property would need to comply with the clearing restrictions and the building and total lot coverage anyway. So
yeah, the only reason I ask is if it was a simple change that we could just make, you know, I do it for clarification.
What is the, Jake, just for our edification, what is the criteria by which, you know, you're guiding that requires the public hearing? Is it, I mean, it's beyond a Scrivener's error, basically, is what I would assume?
Correct, or no material change.
Okay.
So I will move on. There's a few more public comments. These related to sustainability requirements. So various public comments were received with regard to the energy sustainability requirements in section 4 of the draft code. A letter from the Sustainability Committee was received, which details the reasons why sustainable landscaping is less expensive in the long run when included in site planning. Suggestions were made to both or either, one, change the wording of the draft code regarding the sustainability requirements to be mandatory, not that the planning board shall consider such aspects as it's worded now, or two, that the draft code be reworded to require as mandatory all the sustainability requirements, but with a provision that the planning board can expressly waive them in a case where lot constraints or there's unique circumstances warrant it. The planning department believes this is a matter for town board discretion, as affordable multiple residence allows greater densities on these sites when compared to existing regulations. It is understandable that stricter environmental controls are being considered. We note that requirements mandating sustainability consideration are missing from other special permit uses that allow increased density in the AHO, and are also missing from the special permits and site plan regulations as a whole. The board may wish to consider addressing those other types of developments as well in one code change, comprehensive one. The planning department recommends that the language as drafted originally remain in place. This language requires the planning board to consider such aspects as part of special permit review and provides the ability to waive them for good cause shown. So basically the wording right now, which is that the board shall consider those requirements, we feel is sufficient, but it is really ultimately a matter for town board, excuse me, discretion. The next public comment was a requirement that all affordable multiple residences or residence uses are required to install a low nitrogen sanitary system should be added to the code. We note that an upgrade to a low nitrogen system will already be required in cases where a new system or new development will be installed. Basically, if you're building a new multiple residence structure or developing an otherwise vacant property, you're going to be required anyway to have a low nitrogen system. Also, under the current draft of the code, existing residences which are converted to an affordable multiple residence would not inherently be required to update, but it's likely that the additional generated sanitary flow will result in such upgrades being required. So in other words, we haven't had it as an express requirement of this draft code that a low nitrogen system be installed every time you're doing an affordable multiple residence. I think there are some situations where you might have a home that's going to be converted into even, let's say, less than, the code starts where you need an acre and then you're allowed 4 units. You may get a property of around an acre that for whatever reason wants to do less than 4. Let's say they just want to partition it off into 2 units. They might be able to, under health department regulations, not upgrade their sanitary system to low nitrogen. It might have been designed previously to be adequate. However, that's probably unlikely. In most cases, when you're partitioning the home off like this and creating 2 multiple residence units, the health department will treat it as 300 gallons per day and 300 gallons per day, the equivalent of a single family home. So most sanitary systems that would be existing for a single family home weren't already designed to that capacity. And if they're not physically at the capacity, the health department's going to mandate an upgrade. So I think it's likely that in most situations, if not all of them, a sanitary upgrade is going to be required when people seek to do this. But again, we don't have it expressly as a mandatory requirement in the town code. And the board might want to discuss if you feel that additional requirement is needed. But that's the basic summary of the public comments that were received this time around. The board should discuss the public comments and determine if any changes need to be made to the draft legislation. We will, of course, defer to the town attorney's office with regard to whether or not that means that a new hearing needs to be held or anything else procedurally needs to be changed. And once the board does form a consensus on the draft code provisions, what we've done is we've prepared an environmental assessment form, parts 1, 2, and 3, which recommend a negative declaration. The town board should declare lead agency status. You're the only involved agency under SECRA, so you don't need to wait until you hear a response from any other outside involved agencies. So you should have a discussion about the code, see if there are any changes you need to make, if that impacts the process. But if there are not, we recommend that you declare lead agency status, make a negative declaration under SECRA, and then once you do that, the matter will be referred to the Suffolk County Planning Commission, which is not an involved agency, but an interested one under SECRA, and you'll need to wait for their comments before voting on a final version of the law.
Okay. Ian, since you sponsored this legislation, do you want to?
Yeah, for sure. I'm supportive of this legislation as written. We've had 3 public hearings. I appreciate two public hearings, I'm sorry, and numerous public comments at the hearings and outside of those. I support, I think all of the ideas and the comments that have been received are valid concerns and issues that we've already considered. And I think fundamentally that we can't, this legislation is about affordable housing. It's about a housing crisis that we have in town, and the primary goal is to create more opportunities for affordable housing, which I'm wholeheartedly in support of. I don't think we can solve all of the problems in the town with one piece of legislation, and so I think some of the concepts that were introduced, may be good concepts for construction or development generally, but I don't think would be fair to do it just in this case. So one of the comments was number of bedrooms. I understand where that's coming from and just, discouraging overdevelopment. But I think if regulation make things more difficult to complete a project. And so, and that's a good thing. We want protections in place, but for every regulation we add to this legislation, it's going to make it more difficult to create affordable housing stock. And I just don't want, that to get in the way of our goal. Again, it's a good thing that we're careful. I think the protections already have been put in place. Eric went through a lot of individual points, year-round residents, our leases already require that, contingent employment on housing. That's a concern that I share, but this is just a type of housing. People can already rent houses and use them for employees right now. And so this is just a way for us to have more units available for people to live in affordably. And I think there's protections in place, as Eric pointed out, that, there are fair housing laws for New York State and New York State protections. I won't go through them all. The range of income, that's a fair point, that we need housing for all people of all income levels. But that doesn't mean that we can solve that problem in every type of legislation or every development. So again, this is relying on people having the opportunity to build affordable multiple residence. If we then limit what they can charge on that, it makes the development even harder to accomplish, which was one of the other points, one of the other public comments that we heard, which is that nobody's gonna be able to afford to do this. So what are you doing? I think that would make it more difficult. The sustainability comments, I think we implemented sustainability language to recognize that. I don't think we need to be any stronger. And then lastly, the low nitrogen systems. Again, I think low nitrogen systems are great. We've been hugely supportive of that as a board and as a town. But if a construction project otherwise wouldn't require it, that could be the thing that prevents somebody from taking, one mansion and creating 4 units of affordable housing. And I don't think that would be wise. So I'm supportive of this going forward as written, and I would like to hear from the other board members as well.
Well, I realize, Mark, you're here. Did you want to make any comments about this as a tool for creating more affordable housing?
It makes sense to me. I want to do some number crunching.
Okay.
See how the construction costs and the rents have. But it seems like a good strategy.
Okay. David, Tom, I don't know who wants to go next.
Yeah, I'll follow up quickly. Look, I think I agree with my colleague in terms of look, what the primary goal is that this is looking to achieve, and with the comments around sustainability. I mean, yes, tangentially, the use of native species and the vegetation plan, groundwater protection, these are things I think we all support, but I think this project needs to stand on its own legs. My concept would be to find a third way on that. If that's something that the town wishes to impose on this kind of development, then perhaps there's a way to include CPF funds to pay for those. So the developer is not incurring any cost to do it, but we as a town as a whole are supporting it. And so you want, that kind of vegetation in there, then here's a grant from the Community Preservation Fund to do that. So you don't even have to pay the landscaping costs to build this kind of housing. But to mandate it without any mechanism to facilitate it, I think would be unwise, because we really, really need affordable housing.
David?
Okay, so for myself on there, I think the safeguards and the guardrails are going to be in place for many of the comments that we saw for the general public. We have to trust that our regulatory boards are going to listen to the planning department and take those into on a case-by-case basis on there also. I do agree with the need for this type of legislation, which will potentially open some doors to increase our affordable housing stock out here through maybe even the private sectors on there. And too, as far as when it comes to vegetation on there, that was discussed, I think this can be brought together by either the developer of this plan or by the planning department at those discussions. But the mandated right now, I don't think that's in the privy. I'd rather move forward with what we currently have. Also, what Eric had mentioned on there, as far as the septic systems on there, then too, a lot of that's already going to be a trigger of health department on there when we move that forward on there. So I think a lot of these safeguards are already going to be written in the code, and we will have to see how it's enacted. And if we have to come back to the legislation after potentially some applicants come in, that's when we can come back as a town board and see, do we need to change, or tighten the valve a little bit then too. But overall, I'm very comfortable.
Okay. All right. So I know I would have liked to have moved forward with putting in the sustainability requirements, up front in the legislation. But it sounds like we've got the majority, and we should I know when Kate was here, we did talk about doing one comprehensive code change. So I think that's where we will have to address this. So I'm guessing, Ian, you're going to put this on for adoption on Thursday night.
Yeah, Eric, I guess I could defer to Eric. I'm on the secret documentation, all looks good to me, so I'll defer to you in terms of how to schedule that.
Yep. Yeah, I think the next thing to do would be to have a resolution brought to the board to declare lead agency and make a negative declaration. And then we need to send a referral out to the Planning Commission before adopting the actual local law. So that usually takes about a month. So I think the next step would be a resolution, lead agency, and negative declaration. Once that's adopted, we'll handle the referral, and then you can expect within about a month, provided the Planning Commission doesn't offer any substantive comments that the board feels need to be discussed at a work session, we'll just bring a resolution to the board.
All right, beautiful. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. You'll make your 1 o'clock. We'll close. Next up, Jake, you were going to take us through some special event code changes. I know you were here in December. We had some questions for you. So if you could take us through that.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisor, Town Board. So yes, I have proposed some additional changes based upon the board's discussion back in December. Specifically, what we have done now is defined drone show. Makes that quite clear. We have had further review and regarding the waiving of the fees for 501c3. It appears as though we can use a town board designee, provided we provide clarity, which we have here with our 1, 2, and 3, showing what the special event permit committee would have to look at in determining whether or not to waive such a fee. And the other change that we did, 2 changes from December, was one, we separated out farmers market into its own seasonal permit. And then we also changed on the insurance requirements, allowing the town board to reduce such insurance requirements, but not waive totally.
By resolution.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, the only one that I will say I've had feedback from the business committee members, tents. I'm sure, you're hearing it too, Jake, with regards to some of the code changes we have with tents. I've been getting feedback on the size, that right now, would we consider changing that size restriction from 6x6 to 10x10, to kind of encompass that tent. So smaller tents could potentially be allowed. It's challenging because, you put up 20 of them and suddenly you've completely changed the operations of your facility, and it's not really what it's meant to be on paper. So I think it's one that's complex. I kind of go back and forth on it, but I think it's important to share with the board that feedback on the tent piece. Otherwise, I'm fully supportive of this. We talked about drones, even for our own departments, they are a growing entity across the country. I think, regulation goes through the FAA and, operators of any commercial drones. My understanding still that they had to get approval from Jim Brandigi at our airport, or make him aware at least of any drone operations going on as well. I think overall these changes are needed to improve operations.
I'm so sorry if I missed that. Your consideration for a 6x6 tent to a 10x10 tent?
So some of the code changes we got with tents, do you want to elaborate on this a little bit? So, what qualifies as a tent in the code right now?
That would go back to what we recently changed in the building code. I don't have that in front of me right now. I can't speak to it.
Okay. All right, so maybe just bring that back. The only reason I know is pop-up tent.
It's usually 10x10, and I think, right?
Well, 6x6 is a structure, and 6x6 is pretty small right now. I think I have easy up tents that are 10x10 on there. So, I mean.
Yeah, no, I just think it's one we got,
Maybe bring the information.
Sure. I think we'll talk back on that one. I'm sorry to blindside you with that this morning. I just got a ton of emails over the weekend, so.
Understood.
I'm comfortable with this and what you're looking at. I thank you for listening to it.
Yeah, I'm comfortable as well. There's one small on the page one, the bottom, I think it's town board or its designee.
Yep, there's a typo.
Just before I forget. Otherwise, I expressed last time that the 10 days, the limit, I'm okay with it. I understand it's the majority of the board.
We said 14 last time, and I think the majority of the board said they were good with 14 days.
Yeah, I basically think whatever the tent regulation is generally should apply to special permits, but I might be in the minority there. I think it's 2 weeks anyway.
So we had said 14 days, or we?
Yeah, I think 14 days.
14 days, which was number 5. So you got anything else, Ian?
No, I don't. I mean, no, I don't.
Okay, so Jake, you've got the typo. So for the seasonal farmers market permit, that should be underlined, right? Because that is, that's new.
Correct.
You're creating a seventh category. You're calling it this, so that should be underlined because that's a change. And that is regardless of whether it is a for-profit or not-for-profit.
Correct.
Okay. Obviously, you've got.
But I will say this because it's important for the public. There are different fee structures for-profit, not-for-profit.
Yeah, yeah. And then we've added, so you're going to be on page 3, we're going to make that 14 days, 14 consecutive days. And the town board. So is it again, where you have insurance requirements, you have the town board may reduce such insurance requirements. Is that the town board or its designee?
Right now, it's just the town board. I'm happy to change.
That's been, a special event committee decision as well. It hasn't been.
We've made recommendations, but what we've been doing it in the last 2 years, at least, I believe we've done resolutions to lower it. So for like the softball league operating at Stephen Hans Path, we did resolutions for them, I believe.
I don't remember doing that. Like I know for Neopolitical Cowgirls, we reduced it from 2 million to 1 million, but I don't know if there was a resolution for that. So I'm not sure if that should be the town board
I think
or
that's the code, correct?
It's designee.
But it has to be the town board? I don't know. That was my understanding.
As of right now, the way the code is written, the town board by resolution can do so.
Adopted shall establish. So right now, our insurance carrier is telling us that it should be $2 million. But we've had a couple of folks come to us and say, it's a very light touch on a property, and they're saying, going from 1 million to 2 million could cost them an additional $1,600. And so we have, in certain circumstances, let them do lower their insurance requirement. But like I said, I don't remember doing resolutions for all of those. I think some of those were the town board or its designee, being the special events committee. So I'm comfortable with the special events committee deciding whether, applicant could be,
I think that's fine.
Could have a lower insurance requirement.
I can make that change too.
And so the town clerk wasn't depositing checks before, we were just keeping them in the safe?
I don't know what they were physically doing with them, but they were not being deposited.
Okay, so they were holding them in the safe.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I think it's only those 3 changes. One's a typo, one's the 10 days to 14 days, and the other is for the insurance requirement or its designee. All right, so then this would be ready to go. We could notice this Thursday,
Definitely.
and that way we can potentially adopt it the first week in February so that it can go into effect. I know you're already receiving applications, Tom, for special events, particularly the annual ones, so be good to get this on the books. Okay, great. And the last topic today is something that I discussed in the state of the town, and that is to adopt or appoint and create the Latino Advisory Committee. I've been working with members of that committee to draft what their mission, vision, and goals are. So I, circulated this last week and just, I probably will read the resolution on Thursday night before we adopt it, but I just wanted to see if board members had any questions about it. What we've got two ex officio members. One is going to be our Spanish-speaking case manager, Liliana Rodriguez, who will represent the Human Services Department, and the other would be Police Officer Daniel Muñez as the liaison from the East Hampton Town Police Department. These are folks that I've taken, that we've gone to Ruta 27, for instance, and talked to the students there just to let them know, how the town operates, what kind of services we provide, and how our police department is situated to protect and serve all of our residents. The committee has, both Latino members and, other members we felt like that would bridge the gap to be able to help folks to, better understand how town government operates, the services we provide, and really how we can elevate the voices of our Latino members of our community, particularly with what's going on, the current climate of our country. So I don't know if there's any questions or comments. If everybody's good with this, I'd like to have this adopted on Thursday night.
I'm 100% supportive of this, Madam Supervisor. Look, we look at the demographics, 40% at least of our local population is Latino, and there's a lot we could be doing better. And I think, having connections and growing connections within that community just to kind of improve our operations is only a good thing for the general public, because I firmly believe that what makes something better for a group of people makes it better for everybody. That's how we operate. So, getting that, I think, will be very, very beneficial to our operations as a town. So thank you.
Yeah, and I know you've brought forward, Tom, and it came through the anti-bias task force, that we need to do a better job of putting out materials both in English and Spanish. We have had internal discussions, with having a public information officer. We've really built up our audience with our social media, Facebook and Instagram. So I think it makes sense to have more, if not, ultimately try to do everything in English and Spanish, but that's where people will see it, I think, first is in our social media as we move forward.
So I'm highly supportive of this initiative. It's a long time coming. It shows great leadership, Madam Supervisor. While I know the majority, I don't know everyone on this list. I do know the majority of them. I do understand the mission here, and it's pretty laid out in the whereas clauses. Only one potential addition or for discussion consideration would be for a youth advocate, or someone potentially from the high school, or an advocate for Latino Advisory Committee that might be of a younger generation. I know I talk about this a lot.
Sure.
I don't know if any of the individuals here already check that box, but something for consideration and discussion also. But if not, it's I look forward to voting on it.
I think it's a great recommendation.
Yeah, it is. All right. Well, I may take time to find that person, so maybe we adopt and then put the word out. We can reach out to the high school too.
Yeah, I'm supportive of this as well. As everybody said, it's a long time coming. It's fully appropriate. I think we only do a better job as your representatives when we hear from the community, the whole community, and the Latino community is a big part of our community. And so I think it's important to establish an official advisory board. So thank you, Kathy, for taking the initiative, and I'm fully supportive.
Great. Okay, so that is all of our topics for today, so we can move on to liaison reports. Tom?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I'm sorry to get this up. Okay, I will start with the Amagansett Citizens Advisory Committee. Just a reminder, we're meeting Monday, February the 9th at 6:30 p.m. at the Amagansett School. I'm also very pleased to announce I've been in contact with the MTA regarding the Cranberry Hole Road Bridge. Just, since my last liaison report, I got notification that some actuals, which is what I like to hear. The RFP went out on December 12th to the 4 firms pre-qualified for the MTA. There was a project site tour that took place on the 19th, and the MTA will be receiving proposals back for that work on February 26th. So this is coming in the future. I'm very pleased to hear that. IT, Madam Supervisor, as permitted in the calendar, I would like to request a work session in February for the IT department to give a public overview of the GIS system, the Axis system. It's a public-facing GIS system, just to kind of encourage people as to what the capabilities are for them to look at their property and other properties in the town.
Done.
Thank you. Fire Marshal's Office. I would like to, again, request a either late January or a Feb work session for the Fire Marshal's Office to do a presentation on checking your CO alarms. It's the anniversary of what's called the Amanda's Law, which is named in honor of a New York resident, teenage girl who lost her life to carbon monoxide. Just some recommendations for, people, what they must do. I hope I can give that, but just short term, just understand as public, CO alarms must be installed in all new existing 1- and 2-story family dwellings, multi-family dwellings, and rentals having fuel-burning appliance system. The National Fire Protection Association recommends CO alarms be installed in a central location outside each sleeping area and one on every level of the home. CO alarms must be listed listed to comply with UL, which is the Underwriters Laboratory 2034, or CSA, Canadian Standards Association 6.19. That is from the New York State Gov website. You can find it there as well. Sanitation Department. You'll be seeing some new signage going up at the Sanitation Department. This is following some public concern we've had coming back from the public, from people using the site in ways that become problematic, honestly. I'd mentioned in some previous liaisons report, but just it's going to be a reminder of the town code as it pertains to sanitation operations. And the code here reads, this is code number 204-8211, no person shall remove any materials from the town's recycling center without the prior consent of the town employees on duty at the recycling center, unless said materials are located in a specifically designed area for exchange and scavenging. So that signage will be going up in the next few weeks at the recycling centers.
I was actually there 2 weeks ago when the PD was called.
Yeah.
By chance going in there. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. It's, we want it to operate in a fair and operational way, but it has to be safe. It has to be safe. The Fire Access Road group just wanted to come. Are we going to have a meeting this Wednesday?
Tomorrow.
Yes. Sorry. Okay. For fire access safety.
That's an internal committee.
That's an internal committee. But there is a few state meetings taking place. The first of which is taking place on January 27th at 1 p.m. at New York.
That's not a public meeting.
That's not a public meeting, but it is for the fire departments and elected officials, so where we'll be hearing what the plans are. The public meeting is on February the 20th at 6 p.m., and that's where they'll be giving updates to the broader community. But for those of you who haven't seen, the work they've done in the Peak Meadows and elsewhere has been pretty extensive. So I'm very grateful to our partnership, to the governor and to the supervisor for helping to coordinate what's going on there. I think it's been a great effort in reducing the fire load. That is, lastly, and I'm sure my colleagues have heard this too, but from the business committee and others, just continuing to receive a lot of concern calls from local businesses about permitting and CO issues in the building department. I know we're all aware of this. It obviously affects our local industries significantly. It is something we're working on. We have made recent hires. We've got people in training. There are some issues that are for exec, which we don't discuss here in public. But in terms of the hiring and the working with civil service, just the sheer volume of calls that department is screening from people having concerns. I will say this: I understand the frustration many of you in the public are having with this. but the constant calls to the department are actually slowing operations there. And, as possible, I ask you to be patient. I understand as a business operator how challenging it is. We are working on it. We have more changes we will continue to revisit in that department. And one thing I know that we've discussed at this days and elsewhere that, if our legislation is a significant factor in impacting operations there, I think it's something that we will need to sit down and discuss as to how we can possibly adapt or change that to, get us back to where we need to be in terms of operations. That's obviously as the load and the code and the law permit.
And we have a resolution on today to hire an outside firm, and we're going to be hiring a number of them to help us with particularly new building permits.
Yes, that's everything.
Builds. Yeah.
That's my liaison report, Madam Speaker.
Great. Thank you, Tom.
In the fisheries, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration is requesting that Governor Hochul, provide 6 nominations for 2 appointments to the Mid-Atlantic Fisheries Management Council. We recently had Dan Farnham Sr. on that council. I've requested the FAC, God bless you, put names for that, to recommend to the town board that we can potentially advocate to make sure our fisheries representative to to the Mid-Atlantic Fisheries Management Council comes from within our borders then too. These names have to be submitted by January 23rd of this year, but if anyone's interested, they can also contact the Board of Commissioners at the DEC at the Mid-Atlantic Marine Council, Fisheries Council. On a couple things here, these are more updates on here. The Westlake Boat Ramp update. The contracts are being signed, so I would expect potentially by the next time we have a town board meeting in February that we will start staging in that location for that water quality initiative. Also, as far as the Carl Fisher building, I'll have on a resolution on Thursday to accept the proposal work to be done for that project, and that project will start almost immediately after. That moves into Second House. I stopped in there yesterday and met with a representative from Montauk Historical Society. They're planning to move some of their operations over to Second House more for year-round as the Carl Fisher main building is being renovated. 2 other things. I know I mentioned one last week, but anytime we start action on it, I anticipate potentially by the first week in February, which is the week after next, that the Stephen Hans Path, Honorable Fred Thiel parking lot updates and changes will be fully underway as far as site clearing on there. And that will probably take approximately about 2.5 months. Signs will be going up shortly. Lastly, when considering going to the Montauk Inlet dredging update, the suction as the morning meeting update from today with the contractor and the Army Corps of Engineers, that dredging update is that the suction dredging is complete. They took out nearly 98,000 cubic yards of material out of there, which is a little bit less than they thought. They have been hitting some hard pan rock, but mostly hard pan, where they're doing the mechanical dredging. They filled up one of the barges and they're trying to find another barge also to put more material into it, a couple thousand cubic yards more. They have discussed this also with extending the windows with NIMS, and everyone's on board to get this project complete as everyone's here. They are actually demobilizing some of the beach right now, but they're also shaping and pushing the sand in a couple different directions. I've requested that we look at trying to shape the beach there to decrease some of the sand height that is currently going up to the western jetty, as the sand is at the top of the western jetty, and that sand is with the northwest wind is only going to blow over the jetty. And for long-term maintenance, if we can reduce some of the height of the profile, but punch the sand up into a dune formation of maybe a couple feet, that might give also long-term coastal resiliency. The contractor is looking at that, and I believe Brian Frank will be contacting them today also. Part about that also is I'm starting to look at, if you haven't been out there, that beach is actually pretty wide and it's been used much more often. But I looked at the town code for that parking lot there that's just north of the former Gosman's area of town parking lot. There is actually some parking there that's regulated but unsigned at 1 hour parking. I would like the board and potentially bring up to the board about making that area 2 hour parking for the whole entire parking lot. That will allow individuals to park there, have their lunch, use the beach also, but also since it's the only major parking lot in that area of commerce, that it will allow for turnover of parking. We can do that between 9 and 5 o'clock on there. I'll send some information over to the board members for review, but knowing that that beach might start getting more used, we might want to protect the areas of business in that location too. Couple things lastly on here, two things. The DEC's annual spring seedling sale is now open. They can contact the DEC about this. They can pick up seedlings. I know we've used these in many locations throughout the town recently, but it's not just about the town, but also other NGOs or public entities could also contact the DEC to get free trees and shrubs that can be planted for forestry. This goes to the governor's initiative to add millions of trees into our population. I also came across this an email, Tom, I'll forward this on to you. The DEC is also seeking public input on draft, actually, you know, I'll just hand this to you. I'll email it to you too. Sorry. DEC is seeking input on draft policy to improve access to outdoor recreation for people with disabilities. They're having multiple public meetings upcoming. One at the draft policy meeting, which is in the Adirondacks, is on January 22nd, but they're also offering other virtual public formats for this on February 4th, where they're seeking public comment opportunity. The draft policy comments are going to be taken until March 9th, 2026. Maybe you can go with the Disabilities Advisory Committee on that, then to review it a little bit more. I don't know much more about it than what came across as I reviewed, but I thought it'd be something that the town, since we have so many wonderful trails, might want to give some comments to it. Okay?
Thank you.
Madam Supervisor, that's all I have.
Great, thank you, David. Ian?
The Ag Advisory Committee met last Thursday. There were members of the public in attendance. The biggest part of the agenda was just to go over the recent presentation on site plan and code changes with respect to ag. They recognized the public comments that we received based on their initial proposal. And I think the good news is that most of the public comments and concerns are welcome for sure, but also consistent, I think, with the intent of what the Ag Committee is trying to do. And I think that that'll bear itself out as we write actual code language. It's hard from a very general standpoint to know exactly how things are what they're gonna look like and what's being intended. I did meet with Brittany from the Attorney's Office and Tina from Planning about trying to take, you know, the Planning Board comments, the Ag Committee comments, and the board support, and to what we can take from that and write actual code. And I look forward to bringing that back to the board in the coming months. Spring CAC was scheduled to be held tonight at Ashwag Hall. That meeting's actually been canceled, which is a shame. There was a really good presentation about river otters by Mike Bettini, which is going to be postponed until later. A number of people were out of town, and there was a lot of interest in that particular presentation, so decided to postpone the Spring CAC until February, where we'll either revisit with Mike or he'll come back at a later date. Property Management Committee will meet tomorrow right here in the main meeting room of Town Hall at 4:30. The main topic of conversation on the agenda there will be to plan our 2026 priorities with the CPF properties with historic structures and what improvements we want to make, and also to go over a revised Osborne management plan. We held a public hearing here. We had some comments. I think they were good comments. The plan's been slightly reworked, and I look forward to bringing that back to the board in the coming months too, but want to give the Property Management Committee one more chance to look at that. And that's all I have.
All right, great. So it's been a busy 2 weeks. I guess 2 weeks ago on Tuesday, I gave the state of the town. That Friday, I went to the Long Island Association breakfast, which was for 1,200 business leaders on Long Island. Senator Schumer spoke, as did Governor Hochul, and then there was a roundtable discussion with the two county executives and the state controller. That followed, we went to County Legislator Ann Welker and I went to a rally for offshore wind that was the governor spoke at. It was labor spoke as well as the environmental number of environmental organizations based here on Long Island to get the administration to put the Empire Wind offshore wind project back on track. Everybody had gotten, that project came to a complete halt on December 23rd. And the good news is that folks are going back to work because that is looking to be completed in 2027. And then that Monday morning on the 12th through the 14th, myself and County Legislator Ann Welker went up to Albany for the State of the State. David, I really appreciate you running the work session in Montauk on the 13th. On that Monday, Ann Welker and I went to the Assembly, was introduced on the Assembly floor by Assemblyman Tommy John Scavone, went to an event that night that the governor attended. Again, it was another Long Island Association event. And then the next day, I was fortunate enough to have tickets to see the governor's State of the State in the Hart Theater. Most people watched it in the convention center on a big screen. And I don't know if folks have seen, I should probably send it around. The governor, during her State of the State, played a video, and it was local electeds across the state were in it. And I had talked about the grant funding that we had received from the Empire State Pro Housing Supply. So it was really an honor, and also got to talk to the governor after her presentation. So got to talk to, talking about, Tom, you brought up the work that the state's been doing in Napeague and Hither Hills. Had an opportunity to talk to Chip Gorman about that, as well as Kara Hahn. So, there was a lot of networking that happens at those events, and it's beneficial to the town. Ed Romaine was there, got to talk to him about offshore wind and affordable housing. So it was, having been on the board, this is my 13th year. That's the first time I've ever attended the governor's State of the State. And I will tell you, I'll be going back next year. It was really pretty incredible. Talking about the grant funding that we received, we learned just before Christmas that we were awarded more than $3.3 million in New York State funding to support affordable housing infrastructure and environmental planning. $3.171 million came through the Empire State Development's Pro Housing Supply Funds, which will support water and public water and wastewater infrastructure needed for the 50-unit project. It's a year-round affordable housing development on Route 114. That's the property that we had gifted to the East Hampton Housing Authority, and that project is moving forward. That came with matching funds. We are going to be matching that with community housing funds. So that's about $6.3 million that's going to be fused into that project. We also received $200,000 through the DEC's Climate Smart Community Program, and this is going to fund a natural resources inventory so we can make better decisions regarding our natural resources and protecting our environment. If you recall, Tina Lagaren made a presentation last July prior to us submitting the application, where she talked about the benefits and what it all entailed. So this is going to help us, move forward, and we're very grateful to Governor Hochul and our state partners for supporting our practical approach to getting important work done and to help our taxpayers by offsetting it with grant funding. Our East Hampton CAC is going to be meeting for the first time in the new year on February 2nd. That's a Monday at 6 o'clock right here at Town Hall. And that is my liaison report for today. I know we have a couple of resolutions that can't wait until Thursday. So Tom, if you could start us off, please.
Yes, Madam Supervisor, I'd be delighted to. I will start with Resolution 2026-206. This is for the Jackson Pollock Painting Workshops for the 60-plus community. Be it resolved, the town board hereby approves 5 one-hour workshops to be provided by Joyce Raimondo, the education coordinator of the Pollock Krasner House and Study Center, at a cost of $25 per workshop. totaling $125.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2026-207 is to approve the 2026 WINSPA Safety Service, Article 19A, Driver File Review. Be it resolved, the Town Board hereby authorizes payment to WINSPA Safety Service for the total cost of $700.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. 2026-208 is to approve the 2026 driver testing contractors for the Human Services Department. Be it resolved that WINSPA Safety Service will be provided with mandated written tests for senior transportation minibus drivers at a cost of $300 per test payable, and resolved the Meeting House Lane Medical Practice will provide mandated DOT physical exams for senior transportation drivers at a cost not to exceed $150 per exam.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm thankful to be offer resolution 2026-209. This is the amend resolution 2026-128, where we are putting the correct budget line of the increase.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Move comment. Sorry, maybe I may just very quick. I just want to thank everybody who was out there plowing snow in these recent storms. I know it's been a huge amount of work. One of the reasons we budget for this. You've done a great job, so thank you.
I agreed.
Yes.
210, this authorizes the lease for Suite 110 at 300 Panago Place, East Hampton, where the town board authorizes to go into the lease with the owner of Suite 110, FPH Panago Office LLC, for an initial monthly rate of $6,914.27 plus common charges.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 2026-211, this is to appoint one additional member for the Wayne Scott Citizens Advisory Committee for 2026. That person is Jody Marks, and we'll add their name to the names listed below.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 212, this is to accept security and undertaking for the Beach House Development LLC, Urban Renewal Parcel 2 in EH 15. The applicant is Beach House Development LLC, care of Mark Cardone, and that's and the UR parcel is the map listed, which is at 7 Ocean Parkway in East Hampton. The total amount of security is $26,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 2026-213, this is to accept a proposal from Spaces Architecture Professional Consulting Service for architectural plan review services in an amount not to exceed $30,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have Resolution 2026-214. It's a 2025 budget modification for the Finance Department for fourth quarter unemployment claims from the New York State Department of Labor. We're decreasing workers' comp in the amount of $30,000 and increasing unemployment insurance in the same amount.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
215 is a 2025 budget modification for our fire districts, and this is for year-end Suffolk County Water Authority charges. We're increasing revenue in the budget line from two funds in the amount of $3,773 and increasing expenditure budget line. These are for equipment rental for hydrants in the same amount.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion to go
There's
into?
I actually have
Okay,
a walk-on
right.
resolution. I apologize. It's resolution ID 33721, and this is to authorize the release of funds regarding Habitat for Humanity of Suffolk, Inc., Town of East Hampton, to Sharon. And this is because there was a delay in closing. We offered for Matthew Sharon to pay rent, and the closing cost didn't change, and so the rent is being reimbursed. So there's no financial impact to the town, but because it's now closed for the rental improvements of the improvements at 50 Thomas Ave in the amount of $28,256 can be paid back to the applicant.
Second.
All in favor?
I'd like a motion to go into executive session to discuss CPF, personnel, public safety, contracts, and real estate.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, LTV.